It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Oh, we got a full cast. Alex Lindsay joins Rene Ritchie and Andy Ihnatko. We're going to talk about the latest Apple news, including the good news, Apple's selling a lot of Macs. We'll talk about the impact of Spectre and Meltdown and answer, I think, a very fundamental question. Given the performance impact, is it worth fixing, worth patching your Macintosh or your iPhone? MacBreak Weekly is next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 593, recorded Tuesday, January 16th, 2018. My kind of jerks. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Rocket Mortgage from Quicken Loans. Home plays a big role in your life. That's why Quicken Loans created Rocket Mortgage. It lets you apply simply and understand the entire mortgage process fully, so you can be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. Get started at rocketmortgage.com/MacBreak. And by ZipRecruiter. Looking for your next great hire? ZipRecruiter offers simple tools and powerful matching technologies to find you qualified candidates efficiently and effectively. It's the smartest way to hire. Try it free at ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover the latest Apple news with the gurus of Apple coverage from iMore.com. Rene Ritchie in your new studio.
No, still not. I'm stealing Georgia. This is Georgia's basement, and I just
saying it.
Everything is. I have no podcasting set up right now, so I just steal her makeshift one.
Someday it will be true.
I'm supposed to move in Friday, but they're still doing renovations, so we'll see. We'll see. Fingers crossed.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Always.
Thank
you for working so hard to get on the show every week. I really appreciate it. Thank you also to Mr. Chicago Sun-Times. That's Andy Ihnatko. And we are the screen is getting elaborate. You've got what's going on behind you? You have
oh, well, that's just my podcast desk is now opposite to my work desk.
So that's a screensaver?
We're still experimenting. So that is simply a screensaver.
That's a nice looking screensaver.
I think it's from one of the X Screen collection.
Oh,
so
I downloaded the Apple TV screensavers and I keep those running. Yeah, and then it's nice because I have 3 screens, so I have a different screen. I get to see more of them because each screen has its own video. I like that.
See, I love them, but there's like a slightly increasing amount of resentment every time there is a new screensaver, and it's like, well, how about Boston? How about, okay, great. Yeah, you got Shanghai. Yeah, exactly.
Just tell me which ones they are.
If it were a Google product, it would also have like Expedia ads say, wouldn't you love to go to Molokini Crater? You can, with these special deals just
Dubai.
for you.
Yes, this is also Dubai. Yes,
Dubai is easy. If it's a crazy, crazy building that no sane person outside of the Lego infrastructure would do, then it must be Dubai.
Yeah. There are 6 Dubais, though. If you say, why do I keep seeing Dubai? It's because there are 6 of them in the
it looks pretty.
Yeah,
aerial screensaver. It is pretty.
I'm sure they hire someone.
I was pretty sure
the Arctic sunset is my favorite right now.
I was pretty sure that the Dubai was CGI. This looked like CGI. I thought that can't be real. It looks like
apparently it's some famous photographer with his helicopters and drones.
Yeah, I know who it is. Yeah, he wouldn't. We interviewed him and he wouldn't say. But he wink, wink, nudge, nudge. This must be drone. You wouldn't fly a helicopter like this. I just was sure that it was CGI.
Well, but I think it's also slow motion, so it's
super slow mo. Yeah,
so it could be a helicopter.
Oh, I see what you're saying. It could be, but you wouldn't fly a helicopter down that corridor, would you?
You could.
Really?
With the you could clear it. I mean, we've flown helicopters.
Well, I know you could clear it, but would they allow you to?
We've done it in L.A.
It'd scare the heck out of me.
It's really
cool.
In
that building.
It's really cool doing shots through buildings.
Oh, that's Alex Lindsay. He does it all.
Oh, sorry.
From the Pixel Core. Hi, Alex.
I forgot that I hadn't been introduced.
I forgot too. You're not alone. We both
really
forgot.
Appreciate it.
You need no introduction, Alex.
Oh, it's such a pleasure when we have you here, though.
It's good to be here.
Yeah. Arctic Sunset. I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah, it's like all these little frozen ice islands with the sun either setting or rising. I couldn't tell, but It's quite amazing.
Have they updated those for the 4K Apple TV? It seems like they have.
Oh, yes, okay. And HDR. And some of them look too real. Like there's a beach scene where people are walking around the beach, and just the colors that you see there, I keep thinking this just looks not human anymore.
Oh, now you got me looking for it.
Yeah.
You can download the aerial screensavers, and Apple doesn't seem to be. I thought they'd block it for sure, but somebody's written a little program that'll let you download it and run it as a screensaver on your Mac. And I thought with a Mac Pro, Apple shouldn't get mad at me. I spent so much money. If I want to, gosh darn it, Apple, if I want to use the aerial screensaver on my iMac Pro, I ought to be able to.
The T2 chip will say, no, Leo, this is not your screensaver.
No, not allowed. So, Meltdown Spectre, are we fully mitigated?
We are increasingly mitigated. So the thing to remember with Meltdown and Spectre is that there's no way, absent new hardware, there's no way to fix them. So all we're doing is mitigating against perceived vulnerabilities, like the way that people might choose to exploit them. So they've done a series of Meltdown mitigations, and they've now done a series of Spectre mitigations, but that's against known threats. If new threats surface, they might have to mitigate again. And there's one good thing to point out. There was this weird story over the weekend about a developer who said he updated to iOS 11.2.2 and it crippled his iPhone by like half, which made zero sense to me because Spectre mitigations are all in WebKit and Safari. They don't touch the actual operating system.
Oh, is that true?
John,
they don't. No. On other operating systems, Windows and even Mac OS, they're operating system patches. But on iOS,
Meltdown. Apple's addressed Meltdown on the operating system level, but Spectre is being addressed because the most anticipated attacks against Spectre are all JavaScript and the browser-based attacks. So they're putting those defenses into Safari and into WebKit, and that's why I was shocked because that shouldn't affect it. And then John Poole, who creates Geekbench, very kindly chimed in and said, the second test was done in low power mode. I don't know why he didn't realize that, and I certainly don't know why people reported on it without checking first, because this makes no sense.
Okay.
So there was a rash of stories over the weekend where people were very fearful of the Spectre updates, but don't be. They do not affect the performance of your iPhone at all.
And another thing that doesn't make sense is now there's a class action lawsuit against Apple over Meltdown and Spectre, slowing down iPhones. And it's affecting everything. Everything's slowing down. If you want to sue somebody, I guess Apple makes its own chips.
And there's a lawsuit to prevent them from changing the batteries because they say that'll make it harder to prove the lawsuit. So they want other people to stop getting battery replacements just so they can get their
that's nuts.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. That shows you that this is all about law firms making money, not about what's right for consumers.
We all get $5, but they get hundreds of millions.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good deal.
And by the way, you shouldn't be able to get a $29 battery either because that hides the problem. No, it fixes the problem. Jeez Louise. So, I mean, I'd like to ask all of you, this is kind of a debate that I'm having with myself. Do we recommend I think you don't have a choice. You have to do the Meltdown and Spectre mitigations. But given that I believe Meltdown and Spectre is going to be very hard for somebody to exploit, and really only going to be useful in a targeted mode. It's not the kind of thing you'd mass exploit. It doesn't give anybody root access to your system or allow them to do other things to your system. It merely gives them a dump of of data cached by the CPU. In theory, if they knew what they were looking at, they maybe could get a password that would allow them to then do some other exploits and on and on and on. But if you did this to 1 million people and you got all of that data back, I don't know if you would be able to get anything reasonable out of it.
I think on the other side of it,
if I were targeting Alex Lindsay, I could maybe know what to expect.
But I think for 90%, maybe 95% of the users, that speed change is not going to affect them.
Well, see, that's the question. So you jumped ahead because that's the question. Given that it's going to be hard to exploit and that we know it's going to affect performance, should you just not do it? You say no.
I'm saying I would say go ahead and do it because I think that you're not going to notice, the average Mac user is not going to notice the difference in speed, but you're leaving yourself open to an unknown security flaw. Whereas,
but I just paid $8,000 for the fastest possible iMac.
But your work, it's very workload dependent, and your workload. And if you're doing something that involves a ton of system calls or a ton of I/O,
and probably somebody who has an iMac Pro is, right?
Right. So I'd be tempted to say I'm not going to update my iMac Pro, but I'm going to air gap it.
Should
or I'm going to be really careful about how
not buy Oh, you would say not update, but air gap it. Should somebody not buy an iMac Pro and wait for
the
6
GPU
months
is such
or
a big
10 months for the new
But
fixed
the question is,
CPUs?
will it be 6 months or 12 months?
And will they be fixed?
Right,
Like,
well, the
how
thing
will
is
they
that
be fixed?
The pipeline for these chips is years.
It's like 3 years.
I don't know if they're going to have it fixed until 2020.
And what kind of fix will they do? Any fix is going to change speculative execution.
Like we've seen Coffee Lake already, right? We've seen Cannon Lake already on the drawing board. Are they going to go back and totally re-architect Cannon Lake and Coffee Lake?
I'm going to ask Steve, because Steve is the expert on this, but I got the sense from Steve that mitigation, if you were designing a new chip, is as simple as saying, no, userland processes can't look at the cache.
And then,
check it beforehand, not after.
Yeah.
But that means that you're going to give up performance.
No, you'll give up.
Because the reason they're doing it now.
No, they're not. No, you will not, because you'll still have speculative execution, and the process that needs it will see it. What we won't have is a leakage across processes, and that's the problem. So if you set a bit that says, no, you're a userland process, you can't see this cache. Yes, you're a kernel process, you can see the cache. You continue to do speculative execution. You continue to have full use of the caches. And I don't think you have much, if any, of a performance hit. There's no performance gain by this leak. That's just an inadvertent side effect.
It would be in hardware, which is much more efficient than software.
But there's a side effect. It's not in any way a performance improvement.
Okay.
The problem is the mitigations today are hitting performance because they're either turning off speculative execution, which would be a very bad idea. More likely what they're doing is flushing caches as you switch from userland to kernel.
And doing the page isolation.
Yeah.
All the Kaiser stuff.
So what's that? I don't know that mitigation. What are they?
So Kaiser was actually this proposal that they made before any of this happened about better isolating user and kernel data using page isolation. And people are like, oh, that's nice. That's cute in a theoretical sense. Nobody's going to do it, but 2 thumbs up. Good on you. And then all of a sudden, after Google's Project Zero, and then I think it was a Grab University project, they discovered it too. Suddenly people were really interested in it. And they're like, why? You said this wasn't important. Why are you suddenly looking at it? There's a performance hit and it's going to be hard. Why? No, you're super interested in it now. We're really curious. Why do you want it? And the Kaisers became, the Kaisers, I think, is the foundation for a lot of the Meltdown.
It was the first, it was actually how we learned about it. I think it was that and KPTI were the first Linux mitigations that were being done in public with redacted source comments.
I think KPTI is based on Kaiser. It's the same sort of.
Okay. Okay, but there is a performance hit to that. I wonder. I have to ask
depending on
Steve
workload
about this.
again. Yeah, I mean, it can be. We saw again another. What was it? Stack Overflow was saying that it was not just performance, but for them, it's at their scale, it was a power. I think it was like 235% more power requirement.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't. At least I didn't think about that. Is in terms of to make up for that performance, you're now spending more electrical budget.
KPTI's kernel page table isolation.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not sure how that's different from the mitigation that that Steve and I were talking about, where you just kind of prevent this leakage of information.
I think the isolation is what prevents the leakage.
Yeah, but maybe it's not an efficient thing to do. Modern processors prefetch data from all mappings to run as fast as possible. That's the speculative execution. What data gets prefetched depends on the CPU implementation. When running a user space program, when a running user space program accesses the kernel mapping, it will take a fault and crash the program. The CPU, however, may prefetch kernel data without causing any change to the running program. Prefetching is not usually a security risk because there's still permission checks on the addresses, so user space programs cannot access kernel data. What Meltdown discovered it was possible to measure how long data accesses took on prefetched data to gain information about the system. Wow. So they weren't even getting the cache data. They were just getting timings.
And that was the same thing with Spectre in browsers, is that they would sort of push information and then see how long it would take to get it back.
So that's my point, is that writing an exploit is very hard. Thinking about what this exploit might be able to do, it seems to me that the stuff you would get would be so...
And again, if I was doing high-performance gaming or graphics or video, I probably would be tempted not to do the upgrade, and I'd keep important stuff off of that computer. If I'm saying that it's difficult to write, if I'm doing stuff that isn't going to be impacted by performance by that level, if I'm using Excel or the web or the mostly pages or numbers or whatever that is, that's not going to be affected by this upgrade. I don't think. And so then you're just safe. You're safer. I think that just because it isn't hard, I mean, there's a lot of people in China and Russia and everything else spending a lot of time figuring out how to do hard things.
Yeah, no, I agree. Hard doesn't mean it's not going to get done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also remember that you're talking about these are businesses. These are entire industries. They are well funded because there's a lot of profit in what they're doing. I'm talking about breaking into computers and looking for interesting pieces of information. I agree with everything that's been said. That for most people, the degradation in performance is not going to be something you're going to really sense. If you just spend $9,000 on a new Mac, you're probably not also using that to run FreshBooks and use 1Password. You're probably using that to do renders and actually make money with. That's a good excuse to tell your employees that, no, you cannot actually put your personal information on this machine. But the other thing that makes this a little bit more difficult to think about is that realize that your best protection isn't even necessarily in applying all these updates, even though you should apply these updates. It really is making sure you keep a close eye on all of your accounts, all of your financial accounts. If we're talking about a problem that these two vulnerabilities are going to create, that's just two more on top of this big wobbly pile of vulnerabilities to our data. It just has to do with all these just hundreds and hundreds of thousands and millions of pieces of data that are purchasable by anybody who's interested in a huge file of passwords or a huge pile of social security numbers. And if someone wants to target you specifically, they're probably going to do it with a telephone, not with the IP.
And you're more exposed. You're almost definitely more exposed hooking up to the Wi-Fi at the airport or at Starbucks than you are with this.
You're more exposed in 100,000 ways.
Exactly. So when you're thinking about this,
it's good hygiene. It's good hygiene to always be aware of this sort of stuff and always apply patches.
And we should also say, especially the way Apple does patches, they're not always that forthright about what's in those patches, and I understand why. They don't want to give hackers anything to hang on to. So you can't really say, well, I'm going to apply this patch and I'm going to fix this but not that. You're gonna get these patches no matter what in a bundle. So it's almost moot to say, well, should I apply these patches? You'd have to. And
there is disclosure in the patches too, which makes you a bigger, like not you personally, but does make a bigger surface attack area for malcontents.
Berkeley Stephen, who's a very smart fella, pointed out, or says, and I don't know, but I'll take his word for it, that VAX, the VMS operating system, solved this whole cache issue 20 years ago. Intel even had the patents. They'd bought the patents, but they wanted to optimize speed and didn't choose to. And if you can prove that, that's the smoking gun that's going to get Intel in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Because if they did this, as it seems apparently Linus Torvalds, the creator of Linux, believes that really this is just janky, slapdash design on Intel's part, and that was, I guess, then copied by AMD and ARM systems.
Well, especially if they knew it.
They did know it.
It's one thing to be
They did know it. We talked about this last week on Security Now. There was a paper in 1994 that said there's a potential here for memory leakage that you should be aware of. They did. There's no question they knew it, and they ignored it.
Yeah. Well,
maybe they thought
who's ever going to do that?
It was just too hard. No, who would ever do that, and what would you get that would be of use? I mean, I have to say these timing attacks seem highly sophisticated, like Rowhammer. And this one, he's so sophisticated. I could see people 20 years ago saying, "Well, yeah, but nobody's going to."
You don't have the
or they
power.
thought they prevented it in some. They thought they covered it in some other way. It turned out not to be the case.
Yeah.
No, that's historically. This goes back decades and decades and decades. The source of so many security problems is somebody seeing a problem and thinking, "Oh, there's no way anyone's going to go to that much trouble." They're going to go through that much trouble because there's money involved.
But remember, in 1995, Windows 95 didn't. You could log in with a blank password. They didn't. I mean, we did. Nobody thought we would get to the world we have today, where you're constantly being hammered on, constantly being hammered on. Nobody thought that.
Yeah.
Is there a way? So on Windows, there are a number of ways to check to see if you're secure. On Linux, even, there is at least one program I was able to find that checks to see if you're secure. These programs kind of query the processor directly and so forth. Is there a way anybody knows of on a Macintosh that I know I've run all the updates, but I just want to see, am I fully patched, fully mitigated? Is there any way to do that, or we just have to trust that Apple's doing the best it can?
Not that I've seen.
Yeah, I haven't seen one either.
May well be one.
I looked for one. I didn't see one. Nobody knows of one. Chat room, anybody know of one? So Steve Gibson is going to debut it later. He's written one for Windows. I've run the PowerShell script that Microsoft offered up 10 days ago. And that's actually very useful. In fact, I could show you, I guess, the output of this. I think I screenshotted it. It's very useful because you then see, or at least have the kind of feeling, okay, well, it's been mitigated, but maybe I don't have a screenshot of this anymore. I sent them off to Steve, but I might have deleted them. It's a cool little test, and it's just text-based test that just tells you, all green means everything's working. And I really feel like we need something like this for Apple. Not necessarily for end users. End users, we're just going to tell them what we've been telling them all along. Do it.
Just laughing, because what happens if you fail? Is it go, sorry, you have failed. Please
There's nothing you can do.
Computer right now.
Well, but don't you think you should know that?
No, totally.
Because then you might air gap that computer or something. I mean, if you've got really secret stuff in there, maybe you'd air gap it at that point. I feel like you'd want to know that stuff.
There's some
You'd
guy.
like to know that your door is open.
Could you? I wonder. I guess you could run Windows in Boot Camp and run the Windows testers, but that would only tell you firmware. Did we get a firmware update from Apple? I don't remember one.
No, it's not OS update. There hasn't been anything on the.
Okay, because on all my PCs, I had firmware updates, presumably patching microcode. But Apple may be able to do that without firmware. You see, this is the thing. We just don't know.
Yeah.
There's ignorance. We don't know. And ignorance is not a good thing when it comes to security.
I also saw someone saying that the 32-bit versions of macOS weren't vulnerable, but I haven't had a chance to actually check that yet.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, Scooter X is saying Apple can shadow update firmware. That seems dangerous. I have had firmware updates on my Macs, and you'll know because it's reboots, and then there's this slow thing.
Under no circumstances should you unplug your computer.
Unplug,
yes.
All that stuff.
But more modern Macs, maybe they don't need to do
And I
that.
wonder if your T2 Mac is different because of the way it secures all of that.
Right. We're living in terra incognito with this iMac.
I was talking with some people about the recent login bugs, and it was interesting that all these login bugs surfaced at the same time that Apple is moving a lot of the login stuff to dedicated chips. And there's so much transition happening.
Yeah, the newest one is you can change App Store preferences. You just click the lock and bing, bada bing, bada boom. This is Mac OS High Sierra. You need to log in as an administrator, but you don't. But the password doesn't matter.
And this is like a really dumb thing. Almost nobody will actually be destroyed. Like you could be punked by this. It probably won't damage anybody, but it's the third or fourth in a series of login bugs.
They feel like they're all related, right?
Yeah, I was just wondering because they've been moving so much stuff to dedicated security chips. If someone turned on a bunch of test things and they weren't properly turned off after they.
It's probably someone who was working in Hawaii.
Oh God. You think there's people who don't know? They got the alert, they went to the jungle, and they just haven't come out yet, and they don't know it's safe.
Where's the bomb? There was supposed to be a bomb.
10 years later, they walk out, and they're going, oh, the guys recovered quickly.
Well, what's amazing is it turns out that they did that. They do that every day, I guess, when they switch. There was an.
Oh, really? Are we learning more about what happened?
Yeah, they said.
So for anybody who doesn't know, on Saturday, 8 a.m. in Hawaii time, every phone on the island lit up. I think more than 1 million phones.
Colleen Henry was in Hawaii, and she put it on Facebook. She was like, "Well, this is relaxing." Like she was there for vacation.
Incoming ballistic missile. This is not a test. Take cover. And then for 38 minutes, nobody knew any better, except I guess within 20 minutes, one of the Hawaiian members of the Hawaiian Assembly tweeted at Tulsi somebody. But still, I mean, it's
it was on TVs too, right? It was in a slow.
It was on TVs. I saw it on TVs.
So there was an article that said that what happens is that when they do shift changes, every time they do the shift change, there's two buttons. One is the real one. One is the demo.
So stupid.
And what it does is it sends it out to a certain number of people so that they know it's working. So it's like every shift change they check it and they hit this button, and they've been doing this evidently for a very long time. And so it just happened to be out of 1,000 times someone wasn't paying. Like maybe it was his first day on the job or something like that. He's now going to be working in Alaska. You know, like Hawaii was great, but get used to Alaska.
Yeah.
You know, and so it just, but the two buttons are right next to each other, and he just. But there's still, like, when you hit it says, "Are you sure?" But the other one says the same thing.
That's
so,
really bad UI design.
So they said it was bad UI design.
It's worse than that.
The goal is that they want the system to run so close to being parallel, so that if something's not working, they actually know. Because obviously their bigger concern is not sending it out when it is actually happening. You know, and so
no, I think the bigger concern is sending it out when it's not happening.
I think that.
If it's happening, you're out of line.
I think a lot of people's lives have been changed. That's all I can say. They got 38 minutes to think about their mortality.
No, there's whatever office in Hawaii is responsible for that actually released a screenshot of what the interface is.
Oh, really?
And it looks like an HTML 1.2. It's just a list of underscored links, and there's one message. There's BMD false alarm, Amber Alert, Kauai County Amber Alert statewide, and then there's test message, and then there's PACOM state only, tsunami warning state only. All these are just like individual links that if you just click the wrong
instead
one.
of clicking one test message, the operator clicked one down. And by the way, here's what it says: PACOM CDW state only. That's the one. That's the one you don't want to click. Good Lord, I can't believe this hasn't happened sooner.
This is all the result of having like an old style mouse, and there's a little bit of grit in the ball, and so it just skipped down one. That's all. Archie, but isn't it? But I'll say this in almost complete seriousness. Isn't it a relief to know this is just absolutely the result of human stupidity and not some sort of larger operation to make us not trust our?
This is why it's terrifying.
Have us believe.
We don't. I mean, we still don't. We still shouldn't trust these systems because they're stupidly put together. But at least it's not anything more malicious than the thing that was hardwired into our brains at birth.
I love this. New York Magazine says, "Note: you are not looking at at Craigslist in this photo. This is the actual interface that the real government uses to alert its citizens of likely nuclear catastrophe."
Yep.
Oh, I see the no. So not test message. So there's one that says drill PACOM CDW state only, and one that doesn't have the word drill, and that's the difference. They should have clicked the one that says drill, not the one that doesn't say drill.
And somewhere else it said that they literally click the drill one at every shift change.
Yeah, so it's amazing this hasn't happened before.
Right.
Like every day.
I just don't you remember when when the browsers first got like JavaScript and tables, and now they're like, oh wow, we can actually, instead of having everything being underscored links, I can make something that highlights like a button when you go over it. And then I remember how excited I was to change my website. I'm just not sure what the contractor who built
mouse
this
over say,
system.
are you really sure?
Yeah, and
Exactly.
that probably that little list that you saw there, probably went through like 4 or 5 rounds of revision and cost $1 million to have that little.
Yeah, it's amazing there wasn't panic. It just shows you that the people in Hawaii are chill.
Yeah.
Because had that happened in New York City, imagine the riots in the streets.
They had interviews. Almost every person they interviewed said, there was like 90% of me that just said this is not actually happening, and 10% of me that was like, well, and then there was a handful of people that were like calling their family.
You have kids. Your kids are sleeping in the other room. You get this. What do you do?
But weren't they putting their kids in storm drains just to protect them?
Yeah, but that's not. I mean, honestly,
I think it would depend on where I was.
I don't think it's gonna. If you're in Honolulu, you might as well have a nice breakfast.
I know. If I was in Honolulu, I wouldn't think about it much. I would just go, well, maybe we can get to the top of the roof and watch it.
And
you
won't watch it for very long.
No, but I mean, you might as well like, because you're not going to survive.
I'd rather be on the top of the roof than be only slightly injured and die 3
But if I was
days later.
further out, I'd probably try to find some.
It's how the Martians start the invasion.
There's new math involved in this equation. It's like you definitely would go to the top of the roof because either I'm going to die or I'm going to have footage that I can sell on eBay on YouTube for a hell of a lot of money.
Or maybe both.
Clicks, baby.
How about this? Kevin Collier of BuzzFeed said there was an AP story on the Hawaii Emergency Management offices last year that had passwords visible on Post-it notes.
Oh, God.
And they've now redacted it since.
That's right up there with the TSA guy that let him take a picture of all the keys. You see that? They did an interview with the TSA guys, and the guy showed him all the keys for the TSA locks. And of course, they're really like these
they
little
took a
2D
picture
keys.
of it.
And someone, as soon as someone saw the picture, they like made the
they're
counterfeits.
widely available on eBay. So they've changed the screen, by the way. You know how they've changed it? They added one more entry that says false alarm, because note, there's no false alarm button. That's why it took them 38 minutes. There's no way to say that was
easy
wrong.
That didn't have to go through a lot of approvals or anything else. They were able to just, because it was just a list, they were able to just add another HTML button.
But that means they're anticipating more false alarms.
Look, in a country where people are dying from eating Tide detergent pods, I have no high hopes at all.
It's nature's way, Leo. It's nature's way.
Darwin is
I wonder what the
yelling.
false alarm says. Just like, you're about to be hit by a nuke. This is not a drill. And then like 2 minutes later go, my bad.
My bad. Brian Krebs tweeted this emergency alert from Tokyo. A giant lizard is attacking Tokyo. This is not a drill. I think that would be, they need a button for that.
That would be good.
I don't know. So...
For some reason, there's a horrible practical joke that would be, you got big loudspeakers and you're able to get that thing out on Tokyo, and then have the big Godzilla speakers going through Tokyo.
Yeah.
I'd be more afraid of that than the nuke, because
I would like to think that I would have enough integrity to admit that I had made that mistake and recall it. I have to say, though, that I'm also enough of a weasel to think that, look, if this system is designed so badly that you can just mishit a key and put this, what are the chances they're going to figure out that I did it? Almost none.
100%, Ihnatko.
I'm still glad, even if my iMac Pro is now only 30% of as fast as it used to be, I still am glad I bought it.
Oh, Leo, it's not that slow.
It's not. And you know what? I'm not taxing it in any way.
Is it fast?
I don't know. I actually honestly don't know.
I forgot to send you those files to test.
I asked you and you never sent me, but send them to me. I did get a motion template that Anthony did for. He does a motion open for some of the shows for the Tech News Weekly, and it's pretty big 4K render. He doesn't even turn on motion blur because it takes all night on his MacBook Pro as it is. And so he said, would you just try it with motion blur 1 hour? Okay, that's good. That's good.
I need one.
Yeah. So yeah, send me those pictures so I don't
do some transcoding, Leo.
Is that what would tax the dang thing? I can't get the CPUs to peg no matter what I do.
I don't know. I would try some transcoding though, because I should at least show you all the processors getting hit.
Yeah, I installed iStat menu just so I can watch it. But nothing.
Mark Edwards says thank you.
Nothing ever happens. It's very except weird. The other day, it said you've run out of RAM. I have to shut down.
What?
Well, that's obviously a program with a bug, and I think it's Android file transfer because I had just installed that, and it was running. And I think something had a massive memory leak, because to use 64 gigs of memory, I have never gotten past 10% of my 64 gigs of memory. So I think honestly there had to be a runaway process. It hasn't resurfaced, and I immediately uninstalled Android file
transfer. Set up a bunch of virtual machines and run Tomb Raider in all of them.
I'm going to have to do something like that.
Have it keep playing games of tic-tac-toe and understands that nuclear war is futile.
Shall we play a game? On the other hand, it is darn hard to find an external drive that comes close to the speed of the internal. I don't think I ever will. 3.5 gigabytes a second.
That's crazy.
Gigabytes a second on the reads. Actually, it's write. What? Okay, answer me this. Why is write so much faster than read on these internal SSDs?
I don't understand that.
That makes no sense.
Well, it was a brand new machine. It was probably just writing sequentially, and I don't know why it wouldn't read sequentially then too. That is interesting.
Yeah, because I ran it again on an external drive, and as one expects, writes are slower than reads, because of course writes are going to be slower than reads. And I ran it on my old 5K, same thing. By the way, the old 5K is like a tenth of the this drive, this internal drive.
Yeah.
So maybe I'd have to qualify. Your original advice was get the smallest internal drive and use a Thunderbolt 3 external drive. But the only external drives I've seen that they don't even come close. There's one that gives you a gig.
I just had never seen those numbers before.
No. There's the G-Shock guys have a new array, but it's spinning drives. not G-Shock. What is the name of that? Those
G-Drive?
Western
G-Tech?
G-Tech, that's it. They have a new drive, gtechnology.com, array that's Thunderbolt 3, but it's like $2,000. The Shuttle XL.
I think you still want to treat the internal drive as sort of another level of cache. It's just so expensive to scale that up.
It really is. And a terabyte's a lot, but if you are looking for maximum performance, even something like the Shuttle XL, which is super fast, is only getting up to 1.3 gigabytes a second. It's not even half the speed of the internal drive.
But you get so much data, Leo. Look at that. How much is in there? Does it tell you?
They have different ones. There's a. I think
that's got to be
4. Yeah. They're really expensive. Yeah. It's hardware RAID. They're really expensive. I bought a. So none of my Thunderbolt 3 enclosures. They're all Windows specific. Apple prevents you from using them. I think I mentioned this last week. I had an Akitio, and Akitio says you have to buy a new one if you want to use it with a Mac. We can't patch the firmware or anything. Although, as I mentioned, there's a kernel hack that will, but I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So Alex is already ordering.
I'm not ordering
one of these
G-Shocks.
I'm just looking.
It's going to be his pick of the week. It was going to be his pick of the week.
So for an 8-bay, it's $2,000, and this is populated though. It's $2,199. But if you spent $8,000 on a computer, that's nothing.
It's another $2,000.
Nothing. It's money. What's that mean?
It's gratuity.
I didn't even realize they made 10 terabyte drives. I've been out of the. So for $7,500, I immediately go to like how big can we make this? And it's
But that's Thunderbolt 2. You don't want that one. You need the Thunderbolt 3. This is the new one. You want the new one. This isn't the new one. They just announced a new one.
96 terabytes for $10,000. 96 terabytes.
Oh, here it is. Here's the press room. It's the new ultra transportable 4-bay G-Speed shuttle with Thunderbolt 3. And you'd have to 16 terabytes, $17.99. 24 terabytes, $22.99. 32 terabytes, $27.99. 48 terabytes, $37.99.
But for $99.99, you can get.
But that's Thunderbolt 2. That you're not going to get the full
Thunderbolt
speed.
3.
Is it?
Yeah, Thunderbolt 3.
Oh, it does. Yeah. Okay.
12 terabyte drives.
Anyway, I don't need all that
lot
storage.
Of terabytes.
But I think you should, if you're going to buy an iMac Pro, consider how much stuff you want local, because that's where you're going to get the best speed.
Treat it like a Fusion drive.
So yeah, Alex, what would?
And you want 3 of them, whatever it is, because you want 3 of them. Because what you want is you want one that's syncing to the other one, and then one that you take off site. So like once a week, you swap the backup.
I'm saying the internal,
drives.
but the internal drive, you're not going to get 3 iMac Pros.
Max 1
Yes,
terabyte.
he will. Look at him.
You
Look at him, Leo. He wants.
You can back up.
I meant 3 Pros. I meant the backup
At
drive.
night. You can back up. Yeah.
No, I think
one iMac
maximum
Pro backs
1
up to the
terabyte.
other one.
Really?
And then you swap.
Yeah, I would never put more than 1 terabyte into my internal computer because I don't even want to think about doing
knowing
that.
It's so much faster internal. Like, wouldn't you want to put the project you're working on
just
today?
such a pain.
How big are the assets of today's
It's a dangerous
project?
way to think. It's a dangerous way to think to have your computer saving stuff internally. Your big file should always be going somewhere else. Get something fast out there. Maybe if you're going to do a compression or you're going to do something else, you can render it to it and then move it. But you shouldn't think about keeping stuff on that internal
so I don't
drive.
feel so
in my
bad.
opinion, I wouldn't want. Maybe I'd get 2 terabytes if it was like really cheap. But I from a mindset, I always want to have my programs are on there, and I have some slush there. But I don't want to. I want to constantly moving that stuff to another drive that's external because it's just not a good way to live. It's just not a good way to live.
John, could you bring me the package that just came? So
Is it a drive?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I was using a Drobo Mini. By the way, a little tip. I love these Drobo Minis. You can have 4 2.5-inch drives, but I didn't know that there's different heights of 2.5-inch drives. If you get the 4 terabytes, they're really thick and they don't fit.
Right.
They're 15 millimeters and it needs to be 9 millimeters. So I have 2 4 terabyte spinning, not SSDs. I'm not made of money. Spinning drives. So I have 8 terabytes of spinning drives. So I thought, well, if I could just get an enclosure that holds 2.5-inch drives with Thunderbolt 3, maybe I'll put them in Scary RAID, right? RAID 0, right? Mm-hmm. So that maximizes its interleaved writing,
right?
Anyway, I'll let you know because I just got I've
tried lots of enclosures and I have not been successful.
No,
at getting real speed.
No. So John's bringing me the one that just
I finally
came.
gave up. I bought 4 or 5 enclosures trying to test them, and I just never got to a thing where I was happy with the speed.
So I don't, this is some off-brand, but I was searching like crazy to find something.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is going to do it or
like
not.
2 years ago, I went through like a tirade of trying to find one. I was like, I want to have something I can put in my backpack that's big and fast. And
well, this will
in a
hold.
world where Alex Lindsay wants storage.
But this is scary, right? So you want to be you want to be time machining or whatever, R-syncing this all the time.
No, you want 3 iMac Pros, Leo. One to back up to the other, and a third one that you switch every week.
And we have a title: 3 iMac Pros.
3 iMac Pros. This is the Mini Pro. See, I know this is going to be a crappy thing. Listen to look at the name of it: the Mini Pro RAID V3. Oh, wait a minute! It's not even Thunderbolt 3. It's It's 10 gigabit C-type 3.1. That's right. I remember now. I couldn't find a good Thunderbolt 3 that was less than $2,000.
$1 billion.
But this will be fast enough, right? This will be all right. And see, I'll put the 2.
That's what we'll tell you, Leo.
I could use a JBOD RAID 0 or RAID 1. I'll use probably RAID 0, but just not trust it, right?
Yeah, if you're going to use it as a work, if you're going to use it for work,
It's because I have I'll back up anything I want to save to the Drobo Mini kind of always. That's kind of nice. 2 drives. It's made of metal.
That's always a good sign.
It's always a good sign. It's not plastic.
It's transuranic. It's fine.
So you got to take it apart to get it open.
So it's not Thunderbolt 3. That's right. I couldn't find anything reasonably Thunderbolt 3.
And how confusing is it that they have the same connector and you still got to check that every time?
It's Type C, and I just don't know. I just don't know. But you do want Type C, don't you? Isn't Type C USB? Is Type C USB 3.1 faster than Type A? No. No,
the USB spec is confusingly named because it's you've got
it's 10
Type
gigabits.
C and Type A plugs, and then Type 3.0 and 3.1.
Yeah. Anyway. So what do you think? What do you think?
I like it.
Humor.
Yeah, I mean it feels
I
solid.
haven't tested, but
I'll get. You know what? Next week I'll have I'll run Blackmagic's disk speed test on it, and I'll let you know.
It looks promising.
USB 3. I mean, if I get, I won't get 10 gigabits, but if I did, that would be like a gigabyte a second, right?
You got a 10 gigabit NAS, Leo. Just slap that on the back.
Be fast.
Do they make 10 gigabit NASs? I guess they do.
I don't know,
USB
but now
3.
I want one.
I want one.
So I'm not worried about my backups because I have a Synology, I have cloud backup, I have my Synology, I have my Mini, I have a Time Machine running on a big 4 terabyte drive. I have copies on my copies of my copies. I'm not worried about backups. I wanted a fast external work drive that'll be 8 terabytes of relatively fast.
And what I like about this is this is something I can actually put in my bag.
Yeah.
And then you can, if you're on the road, this is like your great, like I'm going to edit something real quickly.
And you have
I have a lot of storage. I can throw it on and then take the finals and throw them onto something else.
And if you want
RAID 0 on the road.
Why is Thunderbolt 3 so expensive? Is it because it's new?
Isn't it always like Thunderbolt 2 was outrageously expensive when those drives first started coming out? It's probably because it's the high-end providers doing the premium products first to milk people like us out of as much money possible before they make them mainstream.
Right. But they've been around now for a while. It's as mainstream as it's going to get.
But also because the first people to buy these things are the people who really need that kind of performance. So they're generally built to a higher standard. I mean, I have a whole bunch of Thunderbolt drives that are now, they're just boxes that I put whatever drive I need to carry with me in. So I don't necessarily need the mil-spec dust and moisture repellent features to them. So
what I do like about this, if you're using the Thunderbolt Type-C port, it's got enough power on it, it can go up to 100 watts, that you can have it be bus powered even with 2 drives in it.
Yeah, that's cool.
I love that, right?
Whoa, it's $439.
That's populated.
Oh, okay.
It was, I think it was 200, I think. That's populated.
Okay.
So, and I had, as I said, I had purchased drives that don't fit in anything. All right, let's take a break, and we will be back. I'm sure there's some other stuff to talk about. Is there a new Mac Mini? Anybody? No?
Not today. Let's check again tomorrow.
Let's check again tomorrow. New Mac Mini, Mac
Every
Pro,
morning I wake
anything?
up and check. No.
There is a new iMac. That's all we know.
There's been no January event either.
New laptops, no January event.
No Macworld.
Sigh. Isn't that sad?
I know.
Used to have to decide between CES and Macworld. Now,
2007
CES.
iPhone, 2008 MacBook Air, 2007, 2018, nothing.
we will talk when we come back about CES. Nobody went. I know.
I went.
You went?
I was there. I went to all the
All
press
right.
events.
You look way too healthy to have been there, Alex.
Yeah.
I have gotten old. Like I was home every night. I barely drank anything. I was eating salads. I was like, man,
You have to take care of yourself.
You have to pace yourself.
You know,
otherwise,
Our entire
I've been
team
doing.
has the
I
flu.
was doing that. People would say, "Hey, we're all going out for a drink." I say, "I'll see you. I'm going to bed. It's 8:00." Father Robert Ballister was there. He got sick. Scott Wilkinson was there. He got sick.
Daniel Rubino.
I saw Father
Daniel
Robert
Baker.
everywhere. Like,
Daniel
two of us were
Rubino,
running
Paul
each other.
Thurrott, all got sick. But
Yeah.
Dick
didn't.
DiBartolo did not. You got sick. Did not get
did
sick.
not get sick.
I found out that's because he was patient zero. He brought the sickness.
He's like Chuck Norris.
Our show today brought to you by Rocket Mortgage from Quicken Loans. Now, if you're about to buy a home and I think this is a good time to refi, because I think interest rates are about as low as they're going to go because they're going up, right? The Fed's already announced they're going to have 3 raises this year. And that usually means the home loan interest rates will go up. So now would be a good time to lock in a low rate. The best place to go, not your bank, Quicken Loans. I think one of the, certainly one of the best lenders, and according to J.D. Power, the best lender in the country, customer satisfaction, #1 for years and years. But also because I think they're very technologically savvy. Dan Gilbert, who created Quicken Loans many moons ago, it was at the time, I think it was Rock Capital. And then he sold it to Quicken in 1999. 3 years later, he said, screw this, bought it back, but kept the name. So I think that's why get the name Rocket Mortgage. I think that comes from their old name, Rocket Mortgage. This is their new product designed for geeks, for us. It lets you do everything you do to get a home loan or to refinance on your phone in minutes. No visit to the bank, no visit to the basement or the attic to get paperwork. You do everything you need right on the phone. They start by first create an account. Go right now to rocketmortgage.com/MacBreak and create an account. Then, when it's time to apply, you're at an open house, you say, "Ooh, I like this. Let's buy it, honey." You can apply very simply. Just a few basic questions. You don't have to get any paperwork because they have trusted relationships with all the financial institutions. They'll just go out and get it. Then they crunch the numbers based on income, assets, and credit. They will and you will know every step what's going on. You really will understand fully what the process is. They will say, you qualify for this. What down payment you're looking for, what term, what rate, and then you pick it and mortgage with confidence because you got the loan you want. Personalized results, and it's all in minutes without any paperwork. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/MacBreak. Apply simply, understand fully, mortgage confidently with Rocket Mortgage at rocketmortgage.com/MacBreak. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states and MLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030. It's so easy, so fast. It's really a revolution in the mortgage process. Look how fast that was. Boom. rocketmortgage.com/MacBreak. So Apple's not at CES, and interestingly, Apple didn't really get any mind share as they often do at CES. I remember 2007.
I saw a lot of people with Apple shirts on.
Yeah.
Did you? There were a lot of Applers?
There's a lot of people wandering around, yeah.
A lot of buyers. I mean, Apple
I think
retail
Apple's
buyers
looking
are
for
always
stuff.
there.
What are they looking for?
Apple retail goes there to buy products for the Apple stores. They want to see what's coming out.
makes
And then
sense.
Apple marketing is typically there. And then a bunch of other people are there for meetings. And
The rumor was they were looking at a lot of AR, VR kind of stuff.
Yes. There was a rumor that they
I didn't talk to any of them there, but I
Well, the HomeKit stuff is there. The HealthKit stuff is there. And
They were also talking to augmented reality component makers. So now remember, Apple does not make AR headset, but this kind of lent credence. This is from Mark Gurman. He knows this lends credence to that notion that Apple might be doing some AR headsets. Let's see. I don't even think we saw a lot of. Did you see a lot of AR? It's still VR,
not
isn't
much.
it?
there was a standalone
saw
Google
some.
Cardboard, wasn't there?
Daydream.
Yeah, standalone Daydream. That's
Yeah,
right.
they have a Daydream. This is it, actually. The Lenovo Mirage Solo VR headset with Google Daydream and Mirage camera. I don't know. I know, Alec. I shouldn't.
And a new VR Pro from HTC, Vive Pro or something.
Yeah, the Vive
Yeah.
was
Or
updated.
Compact.
So I will say that I played with the Vive with the wireless transmission, and it's pretty awesome.
It's nice not to have
To not have
wires.
wires. I mean, it was like, and that's going to give you a lot more of 6 degrees of you're able to move around a lot more and so on and so forth. So that's going to be something that I think is going to be interesting as we move forward, is getting away from you have to stand in one place, and you can and we can do that in our office, but that's because we have a motion capture system. So you can sit there and wander around in a 20 by 20 space, and it's much more interesting. So a lot of the stuff that we're looking at right now is still very early on. I think we are going to see a lot of movement in VR. Google is experimenting with 180, which is where they had the cameras. But Apple's, most of the AR stuff, I have to admit, I've seen is kind of, I'm not that excited about yet.
Did you see the iPhone mocap, Alex, where the guy had the iPhone dangling in front of him and was wearing a cheap motion capture suit, and he was doing ARKit facial recognition,
and the little
it was
dude,
beaming all
and
that
little
to
dude
him.
moving. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's cool, like I'm always like, when they show the video, I'm like, yeah, that was the perfect moment that he did it, that he shows. Like with any of
That's
those tests,
the problem.
unless I get to play with it,
Yeah.
I'm always like, okay, yeah.
I only show the just right stuff.
Right.
Not where your feet are
But it's
3 feet
amazing you're
off
doing
the
that on
ground.
a phone now. I remember for Andy Serkis how much technology it took to do Gollum, and now we're doing it on a phone.
Well, it's not the
well,
same.
yeah,
Kind of doing it.
You're doing the
No, but
you're
it's
doing the
baby
face
steps.
capture stuff, but you're not doing the rest of the stuff. I mean, I didn't see a whole lot of AR stuff at CES that I thought moved the needle forward. I saw some new stuff with VR that moved the needle forward only in the sense of making the hardware more practical and more functional, but still doesn't solve the problem of how do you get people to actually use a VR headset for anything other than you want to leave your current reality and play a game, or leave your current reality and do some education or training. So that didn't really change anything. And getting back to Apple, I was surprised you didn't hear very much about HomeKit. You didn't hear anything about CarPlay. You didn't hear about really.
There's the HomeKit toilet, Andy. How much more do we want?
I know, and the faucets in the shower, yes, but that's okay.
Weren't they more touting though their Echo, their Amazon partnerships than their Apple partnerships? It felt like
Works with Alexa.
Yeah, Amazon really was and secondarily Google Assistant were the big winners. Right?
I felt like Google Assistant was I saw Google Assistant a lot more on the floor than I saw Echo.
They wrapped the monorail. Google,
they
had put those weird people with the white jumpsuits and hats.
Exactly.
And there's a race going on right now.
Did you go, Andy?
No, I didn't, but I was having my usual 3-screen experience of.
You get, frankly, I think a better picture of CES not going.
Yeah, my CES usually happens in about a couple of weeks, when all the people that I talked to and responded to a week before CES say that I'm not going, but hey, let's talk later in the month after you've recovered from whatever.
CES, so he's healthy.
I think HomeKit is challenging, and the people I've talked to who make IoT devices say, we want to because Apple's a big market, but it's hard.
Well, there's a couple things, like they're making the chips are going to be virtualized soon, so you won't have to actually buy the physical chips to get the encryption.
Yep.
You'll be able to do it in software. But I was talking to someone who's in the industry, and there's still a lot of things that any of these products don't do. Like they're very good at, for example, if you say, get me a Coke, they're very good at understanding that you're saying Coke, but they're not getting better at understanding that you want a Coke rather than a Pepsi. Like they're understanding what you're saying, but not understanding you any better. And also there's things like, if you can say turn on my shower, but it doesn't learn that after you wake up and check Twitter, you always want to take a shower. So it just start preparing it for you. And they're still not hardwired yet. Like it's all Wi-Fi, and a lot of systems want hard links. And there's just a lot of steps that we have. Like we're at the very, very, very nascent beginning of this technology.
And we were having a conversation with one of the manufacturers, and you start realizing, and they didn't confirm or deny any of this, but but this is where you can see it kind of going, is imagine having an iPhone that has your recipe, and it says, okay, you're going to go start cutting the chicken, put the pan on the stove, and then the pan, as soon as you put the pan on the stove, the app tells the stove to turn on. Yep. And it heats the pan, and the pan tells the stove what temperature it's at. So that it keeps on heating the pan until the pan reaches the temperature, and then it's constantly making sure the pan stays at that temperature. At the same time, it tells you to go, now put your chicken in. You put your chicken in. And so there's it then just keeps on doing what it needs to do with the pan, and the pan's talking to the stove, and the phone's talking to both of them. And that is probably 2 or 3 years away. And so we're still looking at this stuff.
So even simple
very,
stuff
very
like
it's
turn on the
like
lights. You're in the, sorry, Andy.
No, I'm just saying that you have to accept that you're solving problems that are great for nerds, but for ordinary people, they've got no problem creating bad fried eggs the first 2 or 3 times, and then after the third time you've created bad fried eggs, you understand how to make fried eggs, and you don't need computers to remind you. Take the pan off the stove now. Like, make sure you add the butter now. Oh no, that's too much butter. Take some butter out.
But I think it's it's more of a Blue Apron on steroids. You know where it's really sorting. Like, you have these things that are being sent to you, and I can imagine the market is really an Amazon market in a lot of ways, where on my I'm going to get to watch a little thing on how to do it on my Echo Show or whatever, and then it's going to show up from Whole Foods. And then it's going to talk to everything to do what I want it to do. And people will be more adventurous. Yeah, sure that fried eggs is probably a rough one. But if you want to make chicken cordon bleu and you've never made it before and you want it to actually turn out because you got a date coming over or something,
But there's also like just basic stuff like turn on the light, and you have to say turn on the kitchen light. Even if you're in the kitchen, it doesn't know that you're watching your phone, whatever. There's motion sensor in the kitchen, and that's the light that you mean. You've got to be specific every time. The context part is still super laggy. The prediction part doesn't really exist yet. The ability to talk and not be super specific about what you want in what order and then break it apart into minute chunks is still very like, again, we're at the super beginning of these being not very good assistants. They're good at taking orders, but they're not very good assistants yet.
Well, that's where I like the Google Assistant. I was walking home just last week from someplace. I needed to take the commuter rail home. Asked how long. I'm trying to figure out if I should walk it or I should just get an Uber or whatever, and just asked the assistant how far is it from here to the train station, and says, well, by MBTA it's 6.2 miles, and showed me where to pick up the green line. But then I just simply said, what if I walk? Now it understands that we're continuing the conversation, that the saying we'll take the request I just gave you and modify it thusly. So I think that the Google Assistant is showing that.
Siri ship with sequential inference. It's just they're not getting better from it. They got like basic 2-step sequential inference, and they're left it there.
I do think that Google Assistant is getting better at that. But what I was about to say though is that so many simple stupid things like here in my new place, I've got a Google Home in the office. I've got a Google Home in the living room, and it annoys me that I had to place them so that if I give a command in one place, it's not going to be picked up by my phone on my desk. It's not going to be that we're not going to have multiple devices fighting over it. We really should have these two Google Homes on the phone, understanding that, okay, just like if you're old enough to remember having one phone in the house and everyone as an extension. So just the act of putting your hand over the mouthpiece and yelling, "I got it," so everyone else just puts down the receivers. That's what we need. It's simple things. But what you're talking about, like learning that this is my routine. If I turn off the lights in the living room, I'm probably going to be turning off the lights in the bedroom very, very shortly because it's now 11 p.m. and I'm
or just warm up the bedroom because I'm going there or whatever. Yeah.
Right. All these things are very, very. I think are within reach. You're not talking about a moonshot to get this done. I think that they're just waiting for enough normal people to be using this stuff that they can actually take advantage of it. Not only that, but trust it.
Yeah.
I mean, we still have our, the Echo just randomly. I mean, of course, my name is close, but it is. But the other issue is that even when my kids aren't talking about, like, we're watching TV and suddenly the Echo says, "I don't understand what to do there," and it's just like out of complete nowhere.
Forbid you. Imagine you say seriously. Well, that's the thing too. Like, Siri is supposed to do this voting system where if you just say the word and you have a bunch of, because you can have you can have your phone, your roommate or partner's phone, or a kid's phone, or somebody else's phone, an iPad, a watch. You can have all these devices in the area. I once was driving in a car and I lifted my arm up and I had a phone on the dash and two phones I was just testing with on the side, and I said the command word, and they argued for like 2 seconds over which one was going to answer it. And they're supposed to have this voting system where it takes this telemetry and realizes what device has a screen on, which has it off, which is the last one you use, which is the closest proximity to you, and decide which one to answer. But it's not always fast and it's not always right, and it creates what Andy said, where suddenly you hear a voice upstairs. You're like, no, I am obviously downstairs.
Well, and I find what's interesting is how, as human beings, we get pretty good at talking to our things in a way that they, you slowly, like my kids are masters of it. They know exactly the intonations and exactly how to say things to the
teaching
Echo.
Us diction.
Yeah, they immediately, and they spend way more time with that than I do. I mean, they're over there asking it questions all the time and talking to it and everything else, and so they absorb that much faster. There's a lot of things that now I really realize that I have to have my kids look at and tell me whether it's actually well. It's like,
but you're highly technical. Isn't that it? I mean, I understand that with parents who aren't.
But they are
technical.
like fish in water. Yeah. Like it's like there's this. I mean, have you seen? It is Lively. Live.ly.
Yeah, the kids love that. Yeah,
it's just chaos. Like it's just like
it's horrible.
Chaos. And you look at it, you're like, I don't understand what I'm looking. I don't even know what I'm looking at.
It's basically karaoke, but Periscope for karaoke, kind of. Or
but there's all kinds of different shows, and they're kind of singing along, and they're kind of not.
So your kids are Lively users?
No, I had to show it to them because someone else
didn't understand it.
Yeah, we had a partner that was talking about it, and I was like,
oh, Lively's over, I think.
And I looked at it, and I was like, I don't understand this, and I showed
By
it
the
to
time
them.
we hear about it, it's over, right?
Oh yeah, I think it's over.
It got bought by some Chinese company.
Yeah.
So but the stream counts are like, I'm looking at it and I'm like, I don't understand what I'm looking at, but there are 40,000 people looking at this, and I don't, I don't understand. So I had to show my kids, and then they were like, oh, that's pretty cool. I see what they're doing, and then they're like talking about when are they going to do another coin drop? But this was like within minutes of seeing it. Like I couldn't understand at all what was going on. But it's it's crazy. It's that's all I gotta say.
It's amazing. I mean, I talked about this previously, but my godkids, before they could read or write, were using Siri to send and receive iMessages, and they could have it read out the last iMessage, dictate the next one, and it's incredibly enabling technology. Yeah. It still hits walls very quickly.
Yeah.
All right. Apple is still in the PC business. In fact, they're the number 4 PC manufacturer. They sold 20 million. This is from IDC and Gartner. 20 million, because they don't say, Apple doesn't say, 20 million Macintosh computers.
They'll tell us at the end of January with their year end.
Okay, so we'll have, that's right. We'll have at the quarterly results, we'll have the, so they, number 1 is HP, number 2, Lenovo, number 3, Dell, number 4, Apple.
Yeah.
Leapfrogging Asus and Acer.
Yeah, it is a little bit like being the 4th largest army on the planet. It's like there's a kind of a drop off after.
HP sold almost 59 million.
What I was amazed at is that HP is at the top and growing at 8.2%. I was like, what did they do?
They're making great computers,
right?
Which there's a big shift for HP when they split off from the enterprise group. I think they must have said, I'm guessing, guys, we have a crappy reputation. These pavilions suck. We've been loading them with crapware. They break. What if we made good computers?
What was that premium brand they bought? It wasn't Alienware. It was another premium brand, and they were getting super frustrated because they weren't maintaining it. And then I think they decided to go all in on it.
It's I have the thinnest, lightest, most beautiful computer is my Spectre T. It's a 13-inch, beautiful. If you like the MacBook,
now, Leo?
Huh?
How does that name resonate now?
The Spectre T is not a good name, is it? Yeah, they even spell it the same way. But they're really nice systems, and they're reliable. What I find interesting is how quickly consumers get the message. Because HP was number 1 for a long time, dropped and came back, and I think there's a real telegraph among consumers. Hey, you know what? These are good again.
Right. Or companies. I mean, I think with HP, I feel like it's big companies buying them. I mean, I don't. What's your experience looking at the airport? In the airport, like what laptops you see?
Oh yeah, I see. Actually, I've started to see a lot of Acers and Asuses because they're good quality but lower cost, and I think that's one of the reasons these companies, maybe most people haven't heard of them, but they're selling 18 million each.
Because I do this thing. I think I kind of do as I go to the bathroom on a plane.
You look at what's.
I just kind of. What do you gauge? It's about 65-70%
still a lot
Apple
of
laptops. Yeah. Like there's some version or iPads.
And 12.9-inch iPad Pros playing like Gem, Find the Gem game, Candy Crush.
That's been my experience. Every flight I go on, it's loaded with Apples. It's really interesting. But you'll see people, if they're doing a spreadsheet, chances are they're doing it on a Dell, or something like that.
If it's a Montreal to Toronto flight, you'll see BlackBerries still. But other than
that,
so cute
because they're going back to RIM headquarters.
Oh, right. There you go. So, that's good news. I hope Apple takes this seriously and says there's a market. Apparently, and this is discouraging, Apple insider Malcolm Owen reporting Apple shifting more MacBook orders to Foxconn with no plans for a major update in 2018. Actually,
That's
it's
a
Digitimes.
Digitime story,
Digitimes.
yeah.
Okay, so he's
And
repeating.
it's unclear
Digitimes.
what they mean by major update. Like a major update could be a redesign, but a major update is probably not Coffee Lake. Like Coffee Lake is probably not considered by them to be a major update, even though.
Well, and that's the kind of update you'd expect, frankly, is a processor update. It's pretty much perfect. I don't think the only thing I'd love to see on a MacBook is a second Type-C port on the left, left and right side.
Well, see, this is the thing, is that we are now exactly 10 years after Steve Jobs announced the original MacBook Air. And a couple of years after that, like the original MacBook Air, I had it, and it was a fun machine, but it was incredibly limited. It had that little Millennium Falcon ramp that you pull down to get to the ports. And it really couldn't do much. And then they came out with the wedge-shaped MacBook Air that had plenty of ports, and it was much sleeker and better. And we've had the MacBook now going on. This is like going into the 4th year now, and we haven't had that wedge-shaped MacBook Air moment that we've all been waiting for, where they sort of said, yeah, we've worked out the kinks, we've got the future down. This is what it's going to be. Now here it is with like 2-3 ports, and it's not using Core M anymore. It's using a big boy processor or some ARM processor or something.
It's rank speculation, and this comes from Apple Insider, but Intel has now announced that they're doing a processor, the G series, that has AMD GPU built in, a Radeon RX Vega built in. That would be a great candidate, I think, for something like the MacBook, because you could keep your slim line but have discrete graphics. Insiders also saying they might want to adopt it's not merely the processor, the Titan Ridge chipset, which would be an upgrade to Thunderbolt 3 that would enable DisplayPort, 8K screens, fall back to US 3.1 speeds. So there are certainly some
30 hertz though, Leo.
30 hertz, yeah. Who wants an 8K 30 hertz screen? That's not. That's yick.
It's like the original was it the 4K?
Same thing happened 4K. That's right. Yeah. It took them a while to figure that out. 4K is fine. 5K is nice. I don't mind 5K. Yeah. I have two cinema display monitors, the older ones, the LED one and the Thunderbolt one on left and right, and the 5K in the middle. And I'm very happy. That looks great. Although 5K at its native resolution, I had to order computer glasses because even at arm's length, it's pretty hard to see.
Well, we were talking about even just when you're doing 4K podcasts or whatever, like we've been recording some stuff at 4K.
Have you really?
The camera part is easy, but the screen is, you have to really bulk it up, and some apps don't do that very well and everything else.
Oh yeah,
you
showing
can't read
screens.
You just can't read the screen, and it's interesting. The 8K stuff is coming fast.
Can you get 4K screen converters? How are you doing that?
You can do HDMI out,
and that goes.
Our switchers will see 4K.
Switchers see it. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the interesting thing is that
such a change from the Tech TV days.
Yeah.
Do you remember how hard it was
to get a camera pointed?
We ended up shooting a screen.
Oh no,
we had a lockdown camera.
Now, I will say, in some ways, that's still better.
Well, you get moire, you get weird effects.
But when the guys got it right, the nice thing is you had a camera operator focusing in on things and moving around the screen.
That's true.
And
that
it was
is
there was like this, rather than just going to a screen, it was really like getting in there and moving around and having a real reason of interest.
I simulate that with this.
It is, but it's not you. Like, it's somebody else thinking about it. And just
in a way, this is better because I know what I want to show.
Right.
I want to see. Let's take a look.
You want to see Happy Tim Cook
at Happy Tim Cook, and I can zoom in and zoom out. And if you're take it direct, because Carson, if you take it direct, you still see that,
right.
So in a way, that's the pan and scan that we were getting at Tech TV.
Except for the fact that you might be talking about something, and maybe you don't want to think about where people are looking.
I think you do, though. I think when I'm saying I want to show Steve, it takes a little while for the camera operator to know that I'm Happy Tim Cook is my focus.
Right.
So, or let's look at these prices or whatever. I mean, that's nice to have that capability. We've come a long way, I guess, is all I'm saying.
And now we're talking about. I mean, they had an 8K screen at a couple different Huawei. Don't let the H deceive you. They're trying to use the 8. It was like, I really felt bad because I knew that somebody was in a lot of trouble because they had a 4K or an 8K screen with 8K capture. I'm talking about the whole pipeline, and it's dropping like 90% of its frames. It was like, and so every time someone moved a lot, it looked horrible. It looked really sharp, just didn't play back.
Was it micro LED?
What,
Alex? Was it micro LED as well?
I'm not sure, but it was
only Samsung has the micro, and Huawei doesn't have it. Only Samsung has the micro LED.
Yeah.
Already, our OLEDs are out of date, Leo. We got to go get micro LED.
we'll see. You know, one of the things I didn't realize, the micro LED is a new direct view where instead of having, as an LCD does, a backlit thing with shutters or little cells like the plasma had, gas cells, or OLED, which has a light emitting screen, you have LEDs. You have red, green, blue LEDs in a triad. They're so small they can be a pixel.
Wow.
So you have one per pixel, but you know, they showed that 4K display, 146 inches. It turns out it has to be that big to have 4K because the pixels
are big.
Which I didn't realize. So you can't get a smaller 4K display than 146 inches, which makes it mostly impractical. Apparently, Samsung says, we think we can shrink the pixel.
Right.
And it would have some advantages over OLED. You don't have, like, the blue getting
Well, there are rumors that
degrading.
Apple's been working on it for the watch.
Right.
I think
they bought a company 4 years ago with micro LED. So they would be the only other people doing it. And it would... But again, the watch screen is so small. What would the resolution be? It'd be 100 by 100? It'd be terrible.
I don't think they'd ship that, though. They'd probably push it before they ship it.
So that's what they're working on. Hey, if Apple includes a product in the Apple Store, that is somewhat of a seal of approval, right?
Yes.
Does it mean that technology... So what does it really mean? Does it mean it's the best technology? It works best with Apple? Or, as in the case of this Velop router from Linksys, it looks like an Apple product?
So I didn't, well, Apple won't answer these questions, but I asked people who know about this kind of stuff, and they said that pretty much all the chips for these
the chips are the same.
routers.
It's the software.
Yeah, the chips are the same. It's it's the software and the things, and that this is the one that they chose to go with.
Apple chose to go with Linksys's Velop, which is a latecomer to the mesh routers.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of experience with the Velop. I talked to the Linksys people about it, and it sounds like it has some very nice features. I use Eero, Plume, Orbi. I've used all three of those. Eero's a sponsor, of course. But I found it interesting. This is the first one that Apple's sold in the store.
In some cases, it means the vendor basically built it to Apple's spec, but I don't know if that's the case with this one.
By the way, one of the reasons they have never sold them before is Apple sells its own router, which we keep.
But this is for large dwelling situations, Leo. They still think the airport is great.
They haven't killed the airport?
Yeah, no, they have not. But for people who require larger coverage, they think that this mesh router is a good solution.
An Apple spokesperson explained to Apple Insider, people love our airport products, and we continue to sell them. But connectivity is important in the home, and we're giving customers yet another option that is well suited for larger homes.
I believe the "we continue to sell them" part of that first statement. I'm not sure if I did the first part of that statement.
They do. They continue to update them, though, right?
Yep.
Yeah, but not.
They don't update the hardware. They're updating the software. Yeah.
And how long has it been? They haven't updated the hardware in 4 years.
802.11ac is still the standard, so they haven't fallen behind in terms of standard, but mesh technology is super interesting. And I think especially for a company like Apple, where they're going to start having multiple points of access in the home, including Apple televisions and HomePods, that it would behoove them to have some sort of router-based technology, mesh technology that would link these things up. Because like we talked about before, mesh assistants, Andy mentioned before, he has multiple Google routers, and as far as I know, none of these are really hive minds yet that actually work together when you add more of them and do smart things when you add more of them around. So that technology is super interesting.
That's
and
one of the things that's
range,
really changed. I'm looking. Let me look at my.
And Apple and Google, unlike Amazon, they have a range of devices. Yeah.
Connected at home, and I abandoned the airport a couple of years ago because it just couldn't handle it.
Right.
It's nowhere near as fast as any of the hardware that's ever been through my office. The software is nowhere near as good at this point. It was pretty hot stuff about 10 years ago, but it's been far, far surpassed by $100 router you can get anywhere.
Yeah.
It's one of those few products that Apple products that I just absolutely tell people don't buy one. You can get so much. Yeah, exactly. I'm willing to accept that at least a mouse is a subjective thing about what feels good in your hand. But when it comes down to if you must take the amount of money you would have spent on this one Apple router, give me the change and let me buy you like a no-name $60 or $70 router off of Amazon. It's going to be so much. It's going to perform better. The software is going to be better. It's too bad that Apple doesn't. I was about to say something that I would probably not be able to support. I should say that I do think that Apple sometimes, like as they did with printers, as they did with monitors, they have the ability to say, A, we're not terribly interested in designing these anymore. B, we don't see a need for us to design these anymore because you can go pretty much anywhere and get one that's no less than great. So why are we bothering? So I think that that's where they are with routers right now.
I wish they'd cop to that, though, because they're expensive. And if they're out of date...
Well, I think like Apple tends not to say anything until like either they remove it from sale or they replace it, and they haven't done either with this. But I still like there was some interesting as far as I remember, there was some interesting projects at Apple where they would do things sort of like what Mac OS Server does, and that is stage all your software downloads. So it would go down to the router and then populate all your. If you had multiple machines, you wouldn't have to download it multiple times, and it would do things like a nearline iCloud. So it would iCloud back up to the router, and then you use it as instead of using up all your bandwidth, it would just do it intelligently, and it would do mesh sort of things all across your house. And I think there's still a market for that product.
I actually tore down my. This is on my mind because I tore down my network because Comcast has been doing something. Apparently, this is not unusual because it's happening to you too, Alex. It's been dropping every once in a while.
Well, we've been having it happen for months.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. So I tore everything down, and I was actually late in today because nothing worked. And Michael is telelearning today. He's using Skype to call into school, and so it had to work by 9.
Right.
So I was going crazy. So I set up I took the Eros out. I took I have 2 Comcast connections. Took one out. But this just to give you an example of how complex the topology is. This is a plume, and the nice thing about the plume, it gives you a map of your topology. And I have 12 little plumes. Plumes are a little different than normal mesh. You want to put one in every room. Mm-hmm. So I have 12 little plumes all over the net, all over the place. It's just I couldn't do this with what would I do? Buy a bunch of Airport Expresses? I mean, it's just not.
Yeah, and then you'd have to do. They wouldn't do a mesh. It would do what's it called? PoE. I forget how you pronounce it.
It cuts it in half because it has to have a back channel, so it's half duplex speed. So it's not a good solution. But I'm glad they're selling the Velops. I hope that I'll have to get some and see how these work. As with most of them, it's expensive. I think it's $300 some for the 3-unit system.
Can you share packages? Like if you buy an Eero or a Velum or something, and then Velop, and then could I give like 2 to you, Leo, or 1 to you and 1 to Andy? Do they all work independently, or do they have to?
Some of them
together?
that's true. I had a Google Wi-Fi system with 3 units, and I don't use it, so I spread it out. They were all heterogeneous, but the Eros, for instance, have base stations and beacons. So yes, most of them they are. The Orbeez, one is a base station, one's a satellite. So if there's a distinction, then you have to be careful. But Eros, if you get all base stations, you just can spread them all around. The plumes are all identical. So yeah, if I get 12 and I only need 6, I can give 3 to you and 3 to you, and it wouldn't make any difference.
Awesome.
Yeah, they're all equivalent units, but you have to check that.
Like a 6-pack of beer.
12 is overkill. No one needs 12.
I don't know. I mean,
I don't know.
I've heard this word overkill. You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
When you have 62 units.
At Castle Lindsay.
Connected
3 just in the tower.
It does put ideas in your head. There is like a little park, like kind of around the corner from my building, and so I'm thinking I could put. And I've got like one of my windows is on like a little like it's not a porch, but sort of like I can only refer to as the Mussolini window because it has it's like a little ledge with a railing around it. So if I wanted to give a speech like Mussolini, it would be now you know what I'm talking about. So I was thinking that if I put like another Eero on there. And then like I can hide another on somewhere else. I can maybe get my Wi-Fi to reach into that park. Like if I bounce it off of this brick building that's across the wall, across the street.
Oh no, put a dish there.
Anybody
put a little dish on that wall.
It's like if you can do it, something tells you should do it. That is your right to do it.
That is Peter on my Wi-Fi list.
That is the story of my life.
So I have found the secret to using your phone less. Article in the New York Times said, make your phone black and white. And if it's black and white, it doesn't attract.
It takes all the fun out of it.
Takes all the fun out of your phone. It makes it just a dim, grim experience. It's actually very easy to do on the Apple.
My life isn't monotonous enough.
It's a German expression.
I'd say make it black and white, and it kind of looks like what you have there. Make it black and white and make it half
contrast
or
half,
an old
half the
non-retina
brightness,
device and then make it black and white.
Yeah. You can really
Why don't you
crap
just set it in Comic Sans, Leo? That'll even work.
So anyway, I think it's reasonable. You go into accessibility, display accommodations, color filters, and there's a grayscale. You can use other ones for different kinds of color blindness. But just, making it black and white, that's a lot of fun.
Mm.
No,
you know what I did?
Andy, you sound skeptical.
No. I just recently did something kind of similar I turned by default now my data connection to LTE is turned off. So that if I want to do, I'm perfectly free to use Twitter. I'm perfectly free, but I just have to turn it back on again. And when you add that extra step to just simply check in on Twitter or Instagram or your mail or whatever, you find that you actually don't really want to do it. And so I'm using my phone a lot less outside the house.
I'll tell you, make it black and white. You really won't want to use it.
I'm gonna try it.
You get all the data. Everything's there. There are only a few things that need color, and
it's noir. It's fine.
And
it's
actually,
beautiful.
even Instagram looks fine.
It's German expressionist. It's Ansel Adams.
It's like being attacked by a Dementor.
Yeah. This is an article by
Nellie
Bowles, who has the best name for a journalist.
Looks like she's trying to the sort of reporter that's trying to circumnavigate the globe in fewer days than Phineas Fogg.
Yeah, that sounds like
I went Wall Street Journal version so that it has little dots for all the pictures. You know, it would just do that.
Oh, what a great mod that would be.
That would be really cool.
They have
you also
a name
turn your
for
TV
that,
to black and white. I don't know how far I take this.
We're seeing more and more of this. Apple investors, we talked about this last week, telling Apple you got to find a way to make people, kids not get addicted.
I don't want to be too harsh on this stuff. When I was a kid, there was like this. We had a park with a little stream in it, and there was an accident in the stream, and we had to go through 2 months of the city trying to figure out if they should put the stream in a pipe because it would be safer. And it's a weird world when you want to put a stream in a pipe just to make it safe.
And I guess I just feel like I was at 10 years old. From 10 on, I spent so much time in front of a computer and I played so many games. I played. I come home every day from school and play Pitfall on my Atari. I do think about it with my kids, so I take yesterday they were home for the day, and I was like, okay, we're gonna read for the next 4 hours. We're not gonna, but when they're spending a couple hours on it, I don't.
Another solution I'm trying, and I don't know how well it's going to work because Michael really loves his video games. I got some electronics kits and things. And I thought, well, he likes maybe this is sort of computers, but it's actually doing stuff. He's learned to solder in school, which is really great.
Right.
Or solder, for those of you who do not live in the United States of America.
Thank you, Leo.
For those of you in S-hole countries, solder.
With an extra U in
That's
them.
what he said, by the way. He said in solder countries. That's what he said.
Yes.
Oh, right.
Many people don't know
And
that.
having been born in one of those countries, I really appreciate it.
Is it strange when I say solder? Do you feel like, what's he saying?
No, we speak American in Canada.
You've learned.
We've learned.
Apple is really stepping up the action on original content, and I have to think this can't be all for Apple Music.
It's like a deal every couple days now.
Yeah, the latest deal I'm excited about. They got Stephen Knight and Francis Lawrence, who are the production team behind the Hunger Games. I'm sorry, Stephen Knight is the writer of Peaky Blinders, which is one of my favorite Netflix shows.
I haven't seen it yet because Carlita doesn't want to watch it, and so I'm just going.
Well, it's a little violent. It takes place in a black and white. It seems like grim northern England town in the peak of the industrial era, or late 19th century. It's awesome.
Industrial era.
It's awesome. Yeah, the peak. I mean, it's grim. They're smelting steel in the streets. It's like that. It's really great.
I got a 10-hour flight tomorrow.
And the reason they call them Peaky Blinders, and this is not a spoiler, is they put razor blades in the brims of their hats to blind their opponents from the peak of their hats when they get in fights. There's lots of fights. But it's a great show, really well written. Stephen Knight, the guy who created that, and the guy who created directed The Hunger Games. And this is from Chernin Entertainment Endeavor Content. It's going to be called S-E-E. The deadline calls it an epic world-building drama set in the future. My kind of show.
Yeah, I love it.
Sounds like Apple's doing a lot of sci-fi. They know their audience.
They are definitely. It looks like they're really going after this kind of high-end they're not doing any experimentation. I mean, they did a little
this
bit,
is
you know,
class. And by the way, this could cost them more than the $1 billion they've allotted. Not that they don't have the money. They've also got a morning show drama starring Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon. They're going to bring back Amazing Stories as Steven Spielberg. And we talked about the Ronald D. Moore space opera.
Yeah.
And they're going through this kind of, I think Apple's doing this kind of blue chip. I was talking to a filmmaker, and I feel bad for some of the online folks because there's definitely this echelon that filmmakers are starting to break down of features. Unless you're, a lot of filmmakers that I'm talking to now are basically like, unless you're doing an effects film or something really with big cameras, you don't even bother trying to get to the theater. People are still trying to do that. They're still doing some of it but that's like not going to happen. And so everyone's focused on, like, if you're doing some kind of, you might be able to do action, but really if you're doing like romantic comedies or drama or whatever, they really look at all these. And it's interesting to watch people start to break that down. Like Apple is like the top of that world. Like if you can get them to buy it, you're going to get all the money, you're going to get all the stuff. Then Netflix is below that, then HBO, and then Showtime, and then Amazon, and then and a lot of people are talking about, like, well, get big on YouTube or get big on Facebook on one of their things, and then we'll turn that in, go to one of the other ones, and so it's just an interesting mix of stuff where there's still a lot of people trying to push forward, but it looks like Apple's really jumped very much to the top of the online distribution list.
Money and clients will do.
Well, and I think if you think about people like Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon, they probably love the idea of making something for Apple. It's a brand that I think people
they probably approached them. I mean, I think Aniston has her own production company. So
that's right.
And
this is also attractive. They retain ownership.
Right.
So Apple has.
So how does this go to market? Does this go under the Apple Music banner?
Is
there
that's
going to
the
be
question.
Another Apple TV brand?
Yeah,
is it going to be a separate subscription service?
This is not Apple Music. This is something else.
These buys are for Apple TV. I mean, I bet you it'll be only on Apple products.
Is it a subscription product?
Will it be in the TV app? Will it need a subscription?
I don't know if they need to. I mean, they could definitely create some kind of subscription that would support it. But literally, if Apple just produced let's say, spent $100 million a week on a feature film, and it only came up on Apple products, people would buy Apple TVs because that's where I think Apple could basically do it. I don't think they're going to. I think they're going to. They want to have value.
And you know what? I'd pay for this. This is going to be. They've hit. So this morning show, for instance,
$10 a month is an easy thing. Everyone's used to it.
They optioned Brian Stelter, who's the media critic for CNN and the Times.
Brian's great. We've had him on.
He's
shows.
really good. He's super smart. They optioned a book he wrote about the morning shows called Top of the Morning. So he's going to be a consultant. The showrunner is Jay Carson from House of Cards.
Right.
This is a premium product.
Yeah, blue chip.
Blue chip. That's the word I'm looking for. And I don't think you give that away partly because all of these people don't want to be the freebie at the bottom of the Apple TV page. That's not what you don't. No. They want a flagship position for this.
Well,
when you look
at
it,
go ahead.
I just think that what happens is that they get an exclusive. Apple has a producer position on it. They retain some ownership of the product. They have an exclusivity window. It doesn't, and then at some point it can go either if it can't go onto another streaming service, it at least goes onto some sort of a digital to own market. I can't imagine them making sense of this deal by saying that this is just going to be something that you have to own an Apple product and only in order to see it and build audiences. I think that the way that you do it is that you do make it an exclusive for the first year, let's say the first season, and then hopefully you wind up with a Game of Thrones. Then you release season 1 to Google Play, Amazon Video.
I think it's a good thing.
Okay, all of that aftermarket's good for money, but that's not what Reese Witherspoon and Jennifer Aniston joined the game for.
I think it's easier for Apple to convert Apple Music to Apple Media than it is.
They need a
like,
subscription
I just think they just flip it. I don't think they want to have two subscription services, one for music and one for. I think what they want
Apple
is
Media.
they want to make. They just want to flip it to something that's everything, and I think that maybe we see that this year or next.
I think what you can give Reese Witherspoon that she's gonna really respond to is you get complete control over as a producer. You hire whoever you want. The story goes in whatever direction you want. We don't care so long as it'll compress down to an MP4 file at some point.
Well, but Andy, that deal in Hollywood, you're only as good as your last thing. If nobody sees your last thing, It's really important to these people. I guarantee you. I mean, Reese Witherspoon's coming off Big Little Lies. And by the way, HBO's already signed a second season of that. They are looking for, it's of course it's money, it's control. All these are very important, but they're also looking to be the jewel in the crown.
Event programming. Yeah.
Because you've got to be something that's going to, everybody's going to go, I got to buy Apple Media.
The money and the control is everywhere right now. If you're a creator,
HBO gives you that. Netflix gives you that. Everybody gives you that.
Angelina Jolie made a movie about the genocide in the Khmer language. You know, and Netflix was like,
that's
okay,
full control.
Write a check.
No money in it. There's full control though.
Well, it's also it might win an Oscar because it's
prestige.
Prestige.
So I mean, Apple's clearly putting down the money, and they're saying something that is getting these. I mean, every one of these is top flight. They're saying something, and I wonder what they're whispering into their ear.
Well, and I think
you're right, Rene. It's something like, come June, we are going to be announcing the most important streaming TV network ever.
Or maybe the fall.
Fall is better.
But I think that
and you launch with 4 or 5 really big shows.
And they have to hit it, especially after Revenge of the Show. They have to hit it.
It flopped.
They have to hit it hard. I think they kind of experimented on that one, and that was not a good experiment. So they brought in regular Hollywood folks, regular showrunners, regular, all that stuff.
And they said, write the check.
Let's just write, do
what
the thing we need.
What is it you need to get this done?
And I think that what they're trying to avoid is being the next Amazon or YouTube or Facebook, who have spread it out
too much
over a lot of stuff.
They've done too much.
And Bezos has already said, we want the next Game of Thrones. Like, he wants to spend, he's ready to spend real money on it. He doesn't want
Aren't you better off spending $8 billion on 5 shows?
Yep, absolutely.
Because if they're the right 5, and look at the demographics, they've got the sci-fi. They actually have 2 dystopian. They have 1 dystopian, maybe 1 upbeat sci-fi, right? Mm-hmm. They've got the morning show. That's going to appeal to a broad demographic. Steven Spielberg's amazing stories. They are spreading it.
They're doing well. I mean, Netflix is still crushing it. I mean, they are, if you look at the breadth and depth that Netflix does.
Too much depth, I would argue. Too much depth.
Too much depth?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Or maybe too much breadth. Which one?
I don't know. I see
they have too many shows is what I'm saying.
But because they are taking this group of people, everybody's got to find something. For Netflix, it's like a CD store that you have to walk in, and even if you very rarely go over to the Z section, that CD still has to be there. Netflix they're trying to serve an entire audience and replace basically all of the content that they're buying right now. I mean, I just love the fact that I can watch that someone made The Punisher and then made a Chef's Table.
Yes.
I mean, both of them are just masterful in 2 different ways.
I agree. I think that's spreading it around too much. I think,
but it keeps me watching. Like,
it's fine for Netflix because your goal in Netflix is every 4 weeks
maintain an increase
to have something that will get new people to subscribe, and then the new subscribers to stick around. You just have to do that every 4 weeks. That's not Apple's need at all.
No, it isn't.
Apple wants to be a headline. They want to win the awards. They want to be at the Emmy Awards. They want to be at the Golden Globes.
And they want to add value to people who own Apple products.
Yeah.
There's something that changed because the first Netflix stuff was okay. I mean, there's a couple good things and a couple bad things. Now, when I go on Netflix, I am looking for the Netflix logo on the things. Like, I want to see what they did because I think it's going to be better than the crap that they buy now.
Well,
a lot of times
that's because they're solving a business problem.
But it's confusing, too, because some of it is just international shows they bought and branded as Netflix originals.
That's right.
Right.
I think it's very confusing. I mean, they're not going to lose me as a subscriber. That's all they care about. But I think it's very confusing. But this is a business necessity. They're not getting movies. That's basically, they know they're not going to get any more movies.
Well, they still get them now.
I know, but they're not.
I just don't know how much success they're going to have in getting people to say that, go ahead. With Netflix and Hulu and the rest of these services, all they have to do is say, give us no money for the first 30 days and then give us maybe $8 a month after that. I don't know how they're going to tell people, give us $100 for an Apple TV box, which doesn't do as much as the box you have now or what's already in your TV. And then maybe after you'll like the show, and if you don't, well, there's still Revenge of the Apps. There's.
Well, I think that if you just switch Apple Music to Apple Media, what happens is that's all the phones, all the iPads, all the computers, everything can watch can watch the media that you're creating. The Apple TV is just one.
And you can always
one
AirPlay
output.
it to your regular.
I think.
Oh no, you can't.
Oh,
you have to have an Apple
sucks.
TV.
That's a horrible experience. Nobody. I don't think people really like that. That's why I think that if Apple's going to make a go of this, they're going to do it again as a production company, where they'll keep the first. There's never any assurance that this $1 billion series they're buying into is going to be a success. What they're hoping to is that it's going to be a success, and then after the first season, that when the first season becomes available for purchase elsewhere, that's the thing that gets people hooked. So oh my God, I gotta see the season 2 of this. Damn it, it's only on Apple TV. Okay, guess what?
I'd be blown away if they ever make it available to any other platform.
I think that's small.
Well, iTunes, you'll be able to buy it on iTunes. I'm guessing it's.
I sometimes think of myself trying to answer that question that someone's asking me, and I absolutely can't. I can't imagine a show that's so good that it would define the hardware that this person buys. I can't picture it.
I don't think one show does that, but I think that if there's one show, but again, does that person have an iPhone? I mean, like they can still watch it on their iPhone, they can watch it on their iPad.
I don't even think that's really how Apple thinks about it. I think they think about it as, is the ecosystem, are we going to make a premier ecosystem, including hardware, software, and content, and that the people who are in this ecosystem will be getting the best possible experience.
They want differentiated experiences is what their North Star is.
Yeah. I think that this does that.
Of course, the antitrust question is does Apple buy Disney and then what happens?
Yeah. I actually don't want them to. I think that would be such a big...
Right now is a great time for that.
I know. They're going to get the money, but I feel like that would be too big an apple to bite.
Oh, I think
and there's worms in there. By the way, Apple's upset because the FBI calls them jerks and evil geniuses. I like these jerks and evil geniuses. Apparently, this is according to Motherboard, FBI forensic expert Stephen Flatley, speaking at the International Conference on Cybersecurity in Manhattan, said, Apple is pretty good at evil genius stuff, those jerks.
Yeah, protecting privacy. It's just so evil.
For example, Flatley complained that Apple recently made password guesses slower, changing the hash iterations from 10,000 to 10 million. That means, he moaned, that password attempt speeds went from 45 passwords a second to 1 every 18 seconds.
It's harder to hack into my stuff, Leo. That's terrible.
I can't hack in.
I thought that it closes up much faster than that. I didn't understand that. Because usually if you get the wrong password a couple times on your phone, it's like 64,000 years or something like that. It's not.
Oh, they have a way of resetting that.
Oh, okay, that's the issue.
Yeah. So, good. You know what? Apple, you're my kind of jerks. Keep doing it. Good job, Apple. Good job.
They know that the FBI knows that, and law enforcement knows the only way that they can win is by getting the public so riled up about this that they cast Apple as an enemy, and I think that's going to be a very, very long road for them to try to climb.
And trying to capture devices before they get locked, which is dangerous too.
Yeah. Apple MacBook Air 10 years old this week.
Ooh.
Woohoo! Actually, it might even be today.
It was yesterday.
Yesterday?
I have the original Air still.
You remember Steve Jobs having it in a manila envelope and pulling it out?
He was such a showman. It was amazing.
Think about the MacBook, though. You could put that in a even
letter
smaller.
roll.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Did you see the FileMaker ad, Leo? Is that on your list?
No, let me see that. What is that?
Oh, there was just like all this gossip that Apple's making this farm thing, and what is this? It's going to be a new campaign, and it turns out that FileMaker, which is an Apple subsidiary, has a minute-long, quasi-clever new television or new video ad, which we didn't really hear much about FileMaker for a long time. So it's interesting to see.
It's so funny because I actually really like FileMaker. I continue to recommend it, but boy, you wouldn't even know that Apple makes it. Right?
Or that anybody makes it anymore. They're so quiet.
This has the stars of The Office.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find something that will play because
it's on YouTube, I believe.
Yeah, that's probably the best place to find it. I have something. Chrome does something weird. Let's see. Oh, there's a lot of FileMaker stuff on FileMaker Pro 12 beginner tutorial from 2012. That's not what I want.
FileMaker Farm. Try Farm.
FileMaker Farm ad.
Yeah.
Here we Seabreeze Farm?
No.
That's from 2012. Damn it. I'm going to have to go to this Mac Rumors site, even though it's doing this weird blinking thing. I don't know what's...
That's so weird.
Oh, it's Chrome. It doesn't... It's a Windows/Chrome having to do with video issue on just drives me crazy.
Time for Firefox.
Time for Edge, probably. I hate to say it. Ugh. Let me go to Edge. Now, Microsoft. Oh, Microsoft. FileMaker.
Farm Time, the mini movie.
Farm Time. There you go.
Farm Time, the mini movie. Let's just see, actually, if Edge. Yeah, see, Edge handles it. No problem. Same page. All right, let's play it. We got to play it because I like these people.
Yes.
Once upon a time, there was a small root vegetable farm
Beats!
that suddenly became very successful, and nobody seemed to know quite why.
Farm Time.
100,000 flies out here.
So news reporter decided to investigate, and this is the story of her
You
findings.
just want me to walk in the dirt with the heels on?
Uh-huh.
Hi, this is Rita Haywicki, and we're continuing the
Rita
series on
Haywicki.
farming.
Special report.
This is where it all starts, the seeding.
Plant seed, plant them seed.
What are you doing?
Oh, it's what's his name?
That song, I like that tune.
Energy
What's going on? Are
resources.
we hoeing or what? I'm confused. Is it lunchtime?
Who's that?
Not lunchtime yet. Back to work. Not lunchtime yet. It'll grow and grow.
We got it.
In charge of
Yeah, I'm not amused.
It's easy. I basically.
And by the way, what does this have to do with FileMaker?
Basically, it just tells me.
Oh, there we go. There's some FileMaker.
How do you do that?
Click this button here.
Oh, just that button.
Yeah, that's the one.
So, like, anybody can do that.
Yeah, it's like the backroom stuff, though.
iPhone. You need to download the app.
It's the HR guy
Was
that
it this very
Michael
moment
hated.
Yeah. I can't remember his name. Yeah.
that she may have just stumbled upon the biggest story of her career?
Yeah, this isn't great.
Oh, and there's what's her name? I'm glad
Exactly.
you're getting work. I'm just saying.
No, again.
It's an odd choice for a FileMaker commercial.
Well, yeah. Obviously, somebody a fan of The Office, because remember Dwight Schrute had the beet
Had a
farm
beet
and
farm. Yeah,
Lois, his brother. And
It's not up there with the IBM commercials where they reunited the cast of MASH,
Became clear
Yeah.
the farm was
which
And-
seemed like it united the country.
they couldn't afford, of course, Dwight Schrute. Oh, but
And make sure it arrives on time. Unfortunately, I can't show you all that now. All highly encrypted. Shipping!
Again,
oh, he
they put some
shot
work into this. I'm glad they did.
I thought that was a bird.
They put a lot of money. Well, maybe not. I don't know.
Not a bird.
I don't know how expensive these actors
I
are.
think we got enough.
So you see, it was an application built on the FileMaker platform that helped these farmers build
It's
their
weird that
business
it's captioned and they got a
by
bouncing
word of
beat
millions.
talking you through the.
And a guy with a unidentifiable accent. It might be Tommy Wiseau
And lived
doing the
happily
narration.
ever after. The end.
Oh, hi, Mark.
It's an odd choice.
I did not use it. I did not use FileMaker. All right. And by the way, FileMaker, an Apple subsidiary.
Yeah.
On the logo. That's interesting.
Disney, an Apple subsidiary.
Does Disney
By the
have
same people who got you the Avengers movies, and you like the Avengers movies.
I
So
guess
buy FileMaker.
since it's movie time, maybe we should show what at some point this has got to be the last drone footage of the Apple campus. Some
Before
point.
they start shooting them down.
So the trees are going, and this is January 2018.
Oddly enough, it looks just like the model.
I
It
think people
does,
started
doesn't
moving
it?
in now too.
Even the people. Look at that. Oh, it is really pretty now. They're getting the landscaping is getting finished up here.
That looks like a challenging par 4.
It would be funny if they put a green there.
It does look like a golf course. And there's
Actually,
the
that'd
fountain.
be
The
a good
fountain's
AR.
got
That'd
water
be
in
good
it.
AR app. I would be shocked if nobody inside Apple writes an AR app that turns that meadow like into a golf course.
Oh, that'd be fun, wouldn't it?
AC2 golf.
Oh, it's done, right? I mean, this is it. This is you can't get doner than this.
It's the ultimate walled garden. What a
Wow.
statement.
Well, in fact, that's what some noted, that while Amazon is building its headquarters to be part of Seattle and kind of an active participant downtown, Apple has built walls around its employees, entirely inside.
I don't think that their employees are complaining about it.
No.
Well, their employees are in the walls, though. They're not inside the walls. They're actually in the walls.
They're in the walls.
I don't think that they should be expected or required to do that. I will say that would have been very, very nice if they had integrated themselves into the community a little bit more. I think that was the one consistent complaint about from architecture critics.
There's
about how they're doing this.
Steve Jobs Theater, and you can see now we get a sense of how what you said, Rene, which is distant from the actual ring.
You can't let us type.
Wow, look at that from the street, though. That is if that is not a scary looking monolith. Is this the visitor center we're flying over now? I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
It's across the street from.
I don't know if I don't think the visitor center was across the street. The visitor center was just up the path, just down the path from the Steve Jobs Theater.
It looked like it.
It did look like the visitor center. Yeah, it's very pretty. There's not much to say. This must be the last video. I mean, what else are you gonna? I mean, it's just gonna look like this from now on. Unless somebody like maybe Tim Cook comes outside and shakes his fist at the drone. That would.
Oh, if there's a concert or something.
Or a concert, yeah.
Beer bash.
Yeah.
Farmers market.
Let me give credit to. This is the Duncan Sinfeld 4K drone footage.
And is it generating all the energy it needs on the roof?
I think they want to be carbon neutral, right? They say they're carbon neutral, but sometimes companies do that by generating all their own power. More often, they do it by selling carbon credits.
Right.
Or they give some back in off-peak times, and they bring it more in on time.
It's got a lot. I mean, that's a lot of panels.
Yeah,
that is a lot. That's enough panels to really to power a lot of stuff. There's the view. It's a lot of landscaping still to go in, or maybe it's just because it's winter in California. But
they grow the grass.
Yeah, there's the view of the Steve Jobs Theater. Boy, that looks pretty. That by itself is really a work.
Yeah. It's already getting a little dirty.
Is it? Is the roof dirty?
I saw a little.
Are they going to get somebody out there with the power washer?
Get a mop.
Yeah, that is an interesting question. Like the giant chrome bean in Millennium Park in Chicago is polished, not just cleaned, but polished on a regular basis because it has to be like unvariegated chrome. It has to be perfect. I'm wondering if that's part of their maintenance budget to make sure that roof is always scrubbable clean. I mean, you're not supposed to be on top of that. I can't imagine them doing pickup hockey games on top of there, but nonetheless. Oh, and there also has to do with the efficiency of the solar panels. They're going to have to clean them if they're periodically if they're going to keep getting as much power as they're hoping to.
Scooter X points out that probably the next event at the Steve Jobs Theater will be the shareholders meeting, February 13th. And
coming soon.
Have they had the lottery yet? Because I was thinking maybe I'll buy one share of Apple stock and see if I can get in. It's the only way I'll ever get in.
Right.
Get ready with your picks, folks. Our show today brought to you by ZipRecruiter. If you're doing the hiring, if you need new people for this new year, here's a New Year resolution you should consider: making your hiring process better, more efficient, more effective, making your life easier. ZipRecruiter can help. No one does a better job of transforming how you find the right talent. ZipRecruiter posts your job to over 100 of the web's leading job boards with one click. You know about that, but did you know they also actively look for the most qualified candidates and then invite them to apply? And their beautiful interface actively reviews every application to identify the top candidates so you never miss a great match. You'll say, oh, that's a good pick. This is what makes ZipRecruiter different. Unlike other hiring sites, they don't depend on the right candidates finding you. ZipRecruiter finds them, and it does it so fast, 80% of employers who post on ZipRecruiter, 80% get a quality candidate through the site in just one day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Find out why ZipRecruiter is used by the biggest and the best businesses, and the smallest too, like ours, to find the most qualified candidates anywhere in the country, in any industry, with immediate results. And you can, right now, you can post on ZipRecruiter free if you go to ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak. ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak. The smartest way to hire. ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak. We thank them so much for their support of MacBreak Weekly. Come on. You got something good for us, don't you, Alex Lindsay? I know you do. Something that costs a couple of Alexes.
It does.
Yay!
It does. Yeah, I know. I've been going cheap on you guys for
I
a little
know.
while, but I decided to, and I wanted to play with this one for a little while before I recommended it. But and I've recommended this before about every couple of years. I just remind everyone. Cinema 4D R19 is out. It's been out for a little while, but I wanted to play with some of the features, and it is still, if you're thinking about 3D, if you want to add it to your broadcast, if you want to add it to almost anything that you want to do, it's still my favorite 3D app out there. And there's a great demo of it. There's lots of different levels of how much you can add. I tend to use the the one's got all the features in it. But it is they've got some new stuff in there where, I mean, in addition to a ton of great things that make things a lot more efficient. They've got and I can't ever say it right. It's Voronoi fracture, which is basically they've improved how it blows things up. And I like dropping things and breaking them and so on and so forth. But it also has, if you're thinking about 360, it's just got a really easy to use 360 camera. And I've used it for a couple interface designs at this point. And so if you're thinking about wanting to build like a 3D interface, and then you can mix it with motion, where you have 2D graphics coming from motion and 3D graphics coming from Cinema 4D, those are great. And also the other thing that we've just started testing or playing around with is being able to you match move things. So instead of a separate app, you can move your camera around, you can match move to it, and then it'll actually help you rebuild the scene well enough that you can stick objects to things in the scene and that type of thing. And so it's used all over, especially in broadcast, especially in corporate, but definitely in visual effects as well. But it is in broadcast. I think they kind of own it. And so anyway, it's easy to learn. It's easy to get off the ground, and it just keeps on getting better every year. So it is just highly recommended if you're thinking about this and you're trying to figure out what you want to use. And it's super fast on a Mac. So it runs on Mac and PC, but very fast on the Mac.
Very nice. Cinema 4D, and it's what, 5 Alexes?
It depends on what you're getting. I think it starts at one Alex, and then it goes up to
$700.
I think it gets up to I want to say $3,500 for the full fully blown studio. I believe $2,500 or $3,500, and there's still a lot of good business to do this kind of work.
Andy Ihnatko, pick of the week.
My pick is not an Alex. It's a fraction of an Alex, and it's an upgrade to something that's been a pick of the week a while ago. Elago has this really cool and cute charging stand for your Apple Watch that is the shape of a classic Mac. They recently upgraded it to now you can get a Johnny Ive iMac style one, either in Bondi Blue or in Strawberry, and they're still $15. You just route your charger cable like into it, but it's still hard rubber. It tilts up a little bit better so that maybe you get a better angle on it on your nightstand or whatever. It is the classic. This is the most adorable, stupid, inexpensive thing, and I like anything that's the perfect intersection of all three of those things.
Yes, I have my little rubber iMac. My watch sleeps in it every night.
Yes, and you can see that the time of the charging screen becomes the screen of it. Yeah, so it's just quite lovely.
It's compatible with my iMac Pro now.
Exactly. Now, and now you've got like the powers of the G3 processor behind that. So the Motorola 68000.
Power.
My pick of the week is something you should not use for birth control, apparently, even though it's called Natural Cycles Birth Control. Recently attacked by the Swedish government because it turns out women who are using this to protect themselves against pregnancy are getting pregnant. 37 unwanted pregnancies, according to the Swedish Medical Products Agency. The app scans your body temperature during your menstrual cycle to notify you when it's safe to have unprotected sex. But anybody who knows about the rhythm method, which used to be the Catholic Church's preferred birth control, knows that it only works a little bit. 600 women, 37 pregnancies.
It depends on how close you get to the edge. I think that's the thing.
That's right.
You're playing safe.
That's
or
right.
Playing,
Don't play. Yeah, play it safe.
That's the real thing here.
Has an Apple Watch app. I think you could also use it in the other direction. Like it's time to fornicate, right?
Let's have kids.
Let's have baby. Let's make a baby. Natural cycles. We'll see what happens with that.
I think it's effective if, like, while checking the phone app, you get so distracted by Pokemon Go that you forget about fun times.
Natural Cycles response says they have a Pearl index of 7. That means it's 93% effective at typical use. It's still 7 babies out of 100 times you use it.
Yeah.
All of the birth control have some level of loss. I don't know what
it doesn't replace other forms of birth control, though I think at one point their ad copy suggested it might. Probably not.
Also doesn't protect you from communicable diseases, which should be pointed out.
Yeah. They have a Pearl index of 7, but then they say it's clinically tested to be 99.5% effective. See, yeah, see, it's
a fine print that'll kill you.
Oh, there they go. Now they get a typical use of 7. Yeah. Mr. Rene, I don't know if that's a pick of the week or an anti-pick.
A warning of the week.
Depends on what you want. Exactly. Mr. Rene Ritchie, your pick of the week.
So my pick of the week, we've talked about Hue lights before, but since I'm moving, I've been accumulating more and more Hue lights. I had the standard bulbs before. In the place I'm moving into, I'm going to be using the Hue Beyond overhead lights, but I needed something to do fills. I wanted to have enough lights that I could, remove shadows for some of the videos that I wanted to do. And Russell Hawley, my good friend from Mobile Nations, he suggested the Hue Go, which is like a little bowl light, and it's rechargeable, and you can put it anywhere, and it'll give you just this beautiful white light at any intensity you want. So it's really, really good at filling. If you, especially like I want to be able to move around.
That looks like a birth control device. Are you sure?
Well, if the lights are on, it could do it for me, Leo. That's fine. But so it's just great. You can move it around. Once you recharge it, you can put it anywhere. So if you want to move around where you're using it, you want to take it outside with you.
I might get one of those. That's neat.
In my case, you want to shoot in different locations. You just get a few of these. Not the cheapest thing in the world. I forget what the price is in U.S. American dollars. But really, really handy, and you can use them to color match or change the lighting. And now
$71.79.
$71 US.
Yikes.
And what's cool is, like, for other people, for example, you can get HomeKit aware sensors now. So if a motion sensor goes off, you could turn this light red as a warning. Or if a water sensor goes off, like you put it next to your water red as a warning in case you don't look at the phone notification. So it's really handy to have these sorts of things around these days because they become just one more part of your intelligent abode.
Do you need, I understand the Hues no longer require the bridge, or do they?
I believe they still do. I don't think each one of them is an access point yet. I still have a bridge.
Okay. Well, I think the hope would be that it would use HomeKit or something so you didn't have to have the bridge. But
well, it does. But I mean, there are trade-offs. If every one of them becomes a point, you start to run out of those points pretty quickly. But with the Hue bridge, it's just one point, and then the bridge coordinates with all the light bulbs. And you set up zones.
I wish it had 3 hours is disappointing. If it had like longer battery life, I think it'd be really useful.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a trade-off between size and battery life. And for me, it's just I'm going to set it up and do some shoots, and I'm going to go put it back on it. And you can leave it. I believe you can use it while it's on its dock. So if you just have it like on a table or a bedside table or something, you're using it normally, and then once in a while you want to pick it up and take it outside, on your patio, or take it to where you want to shoot or do something, and then put it back where you had it. I think that's.
I kind of like the idea of just being able to take it out on the porch.
Yeah.
Like you just set it down. I think it's.
Yeah. And I also think it'd be a great kind of safety light. Like if the power fails, you still have the. It's bigger. It's kind of like a cereal bowl.
Yeah.
It's bigger than I thought. It's I don't know. I'm tempted. I think this looks kind of cool. How bright does it get? Is it just a glow?
No, I mean I don't know how to judge it. It goes fairly bright when you want it to.
Okay.
Like I will typically set it lower, but it goes fairly bright when you want it to.
Oh, they're using it. I like this. They're using it to wake you up slowly. Can you slowly ramp it up? I think you can.
Yeah, I mean that stuff is super cool. And they were also showing. I forget who it was for. I think it was for Nanoleaf, actually, not for Hue, but they were showing the Nanoleaf wall at CES and how they're trying to program movies into it, so that if you have the Nanoleaf lights on, it'll start matching what's happening in the movie.
Hues will do that.
So like if the sunrise is coming up, as long as we start getting those scripts ingested.
Right.
I have to check it. I did a test of that, and that can be very arresting. Like I did a long time ago when I first got the Hues.
The room feels like it's part of the.
Well, does. You just have to really the attack and decay is super important because if you get a whole bunch of things changing, the room starts to. Yeah, I had a lot of them, and that's
not a good idea.
It was bad.
It's shimmering.
Imagine what a jump scare will be like with a with a change of that's
3 minutes later.
But yeah, so just leave it plugged in when you don't need it portable, and then take it with you when you need it.
I think this has some. I'm intrigued by this. This is a little easier than my Hughes. I still have a bunch of bulbs because I don't really have anywhere good to put them.
I bought the hanging light now, and I also got one of the in-ceiling lights, which are super bright. So we'll see how those go.
I saw this on Instagram. Actually, Lisa saw this on Instagram, and I had to buy it. It is an LED light that looks like fire.
Nice.
And I have 2 sconces in my office that are kind of see-through opaque, so they kind of obscure it. This doesn't look like fire just by itself. When you put it behind the sconces, I feel like I'm in the Minecraft.
That is not Jim Dalrymple, by the way. Not Jim
Dalrymple. It looks like it, yeah. I really like it.
I've been. So I needed to know whether you liked it or not.
Come over to my house and I'll show you.
Because I have been resisting the temptation to buy one because I get it on in
we all see it on the Instagram over and over and over.
Should I get one of those?
So that it by itself as a bare bulb, I don't like it.
Right.
But boy, on my sconces where you can't quite see the detail, it looks just like I've got flames.
Oh, that's awesome.
On my wall.
Do you have recommended sconces, awesome. Leo?
I don't know where my sconces came from. They came with a house. But what's they're
it kind of makes me want to get a bunch of those for my office.
Come over.
So that in
it
the
looks
evening
like
it
you're
just
in
looks
a
like
dungeon.
you're in like
So awesome. We should get
But then if Leo extinguishes, it's like Survivor and you have to leave. It's very sad.
I mean, our fireplace is pretty realistic looking, but it's even more than that. If we got some you know what? Maybe we'll put them in the studio.
Torches, Leo.
Lisa got a couple and I stole them, and now she wants more. These are the $12.99 each. They're not too expensive.
Those are the ones you got, the lakes?
I don't know which ones we got. I don't know which ones she got. These actually look pretty good, these lakes. They actually look more.
Those are pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'd have to see a video.
There's also
I think that's BS.
The Love Is Here LED flame effect fire bulbs. 2-pack for $15.99. They're all made in China. They're all the same. Don't believe the picture. But they are LEDs, so they should last a good long time. And put them in, like if you put them in a tiki torch, you'd never know the difference. You really wouldn't. All right, that's my second pick.
The first one was the actual pick. So. There was a warning and now a pick.
That's right. I wasn't really picking that because I didn't want anybody to get pregnant. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We do MacBreak Weekly every Tuesday right after our iOS Today, usually around 11:30 Eastern time, or Pacific time, I'm sorry. That's 2 or 2:30 Eastern time, which would be roughly, 8 hours, 19:30 UTC. If you want to stop by and watch, you can at YouTube, Twitch, Ustream. Actually, the easiest, just go to our website, twit.tv/live, and then you can choose which stream you want to watch. You can even pop it out and continue on with your business as you have the show in the background. But your business might want to include our chat room, irc.twit.tv. That's a great place to be as you're watching the show, and we like having you there. We also love having people in studio, some nice studio visitors today, a couple of groups, 3 groups. If you do want to come, though, don't surprise us, please. Tickets at twit.tv, that would be much appreciated. Just email tickets@twit.tv, even if it's a few hours ahead of time, just to let us know that you're coming. We love having people here. If you can't watch live or be here live, you can always download a show at twit.tv/mbw or subscribe in your favorite podcast app. That way you'll never miss an episode. You'll get it piping hot and fresh out of the oven every Tuesday afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Now, my friends, get back to work. It's break time. It's over.